Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 698. It is October 14th, 2021. I'm your host this evening, Nick Henderson, and I'm joined by Christopher Davis.
Hello.
Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
And joining us at literally last minute, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here, Jeff.
It's my pleasure, Nick. Thanks for giving me 45 seconds to make sure that I can be on the podcast.
It wasn't literally 45 seconds.
No.
I gave you a few hours heads up, but you know, I was a little nervous there for a second that I wouldn't be able to find a fourth chair tonight. So thank you.
Your lucky 4-player podcast has such a great Discord that I'm constantly checking my phone, or else I would have missed it. So
yes,
but where can they find that Discord, Nick?
Discord.gg/4player. I'll tell you what, I messaged Jeff earlier in the day and he didn't respond at first. And then I sent him the Princess Leia, Luke, you're my only hope gif, and he responded almost immediately. So I don't know if that actually means anything, but I like to pretend that it does.
Or he just likes Carrie Fisher. Could be that.
Or that. I mean, who doesn't? So, guys, welcome to the show. We have a lot to talk about tonight, mostly because Metroid Dread is out, and it's pretty awesome. Most of us here have been playing it. I think Brad is going to talk about it in his weekly update during the break, so get ready for a lot of Metroid talk on this show. We're also going to talk about a little bit of Far Cry 6, a little bit of Back 4 Blood, a few other small things. Got a lot to cover. Before we do that, though, I want to quickly mention that I dropped the ball on the Revival Club podcast from last time. We recorded an episode about Stalker Call of Pripyat, how long ago was that, Chris Davis?
Easily a month and a half.
Yes, easily. And I just edited it. How do I say that word?
Edited.
I just cut it together 2 nights ago. So that episode is now available. I put it out today, so I apologize for that, but it's out there. And then
it was almost lost to the zone.
Almost. And then I recorded an episode this week on Tuesday with 2 community members. Steve and Green Goddamn joined me to talk about Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, and that episode also dropped today. So there are 2 podcasts out there. If you haven't listened, check them out. Both of those games are cool in very different ways, and we had a lot to say about them, so check it out. I have no idea what the plan is for the next Revival Club. I would like to squeeze one more in before the end of the year. But,
that's what she said.
But good one. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll see. We're trying to decide on that in our Discord right now. But anyways, how's everybody doing? Yeah?
Not dreadful.
Oh, man. Well, that's perfect. You know what? Fuck it.
Let's keep it going.
Wait, are we talking about the awkward transition or trying to put off talking about the game that we're obviously about to talk about?
Metroid Dread is the latest game from the amazing developer Mercury Steam.
Oh, God.
I should check out some of their other games. This game's pretty good. I wonder what else
The
they've
amazing Metroid developer.
Apparently so. Well, so this is their second Metroid game now, right? Obviously, we have
their first original.
Yes,
completely original. Yeah,
right. Let's be real. Their work on that remake of Metroid is it Samus Returns, right? Metroid Samus Returns.
Yes,
correct.
That is what obviously got their foot in the door to make the next original Metroid game, I would imagine. Which is
2D Metroid game.
2D Metroid game. Thank you for all the qualifiers. Which is, it's an important qualifier. Metroid is kind of a split franchise at this point between 2D and 3D. But we have a bit of a history with this studio, Mercury Steam. Brad hates them with a fiery passion. But Metroid Dread is pretty damn good.
Yes, I agree.
Are we all in agreement on this?
I believe so. I've not heard anyone with a contrary opinion to that.
So real quick, where is it? Like, I guess it's kind of hard to gauge where you are in this game, just because the nature of
It's
a
often
Metroid
one of
game.
those
But
things where it's like, I just got this upgrade. Is a lot of the way people talk about this game. But like I said, some people in chat earlier mentioned they want spoilers, but I don't think saying, "Oh, I got this upgrade" is necessarily a spoiler. So far, there
especially if
haven't
it's an
been too
upgrade,
many. Yeah,
especially if it's like an upgrade that's been commonly featured in like
it's
the
like,
fact
"Oh,
that
I got the morph ball. I didn't know there was a morph ball." Like, so I mean, it's one of
Right.
those
They
things
did
where,
play on that though. I
yeah,
like that they did. They did
yeah,
play on that. They waited
Did
so
are you,
long to give you that fucking morph ball.
yeah.
At some point, I
that's-
was like, "There's a fucking morph ball in this, right?" Like,
yeah,
there
there was
has
a
to
point
be.
where I had stumbled across what was clearly a morph ball like tunnel thing, and I was like, okay, did I just miss a tutorial where it told me how to roll into the ball? And I was like, I'm gonna be honest. I like, as much as I love Metroid, I'm very inexperienced in the franchise. I've only played Super Metroid and the first Metroid Prime, so this is my third Metroid game. But I was like, I know the whole morph ball thing, right? That's a thing. I feel like I
Yep.
should have that now, and I didn't. So it was kind of confusing at first. But man, I feel like this game kind of gets it. It stumbles in a few areas, I think, which we'll talk about, obviously.
It's definitely not perfect, but I mean, not many games are.
But, but it's weird in the
It
sense
excels
that
in a lot of places, though.
it's weird in the sense that one, it has the baggage that comes along with it being a Mercury Steam game, and we've been burned by them a few times. And then it has, it's a Metroid game, not being developed necessarily quote unquote in house by Nintendo. It's following up some very beloved Nintendo developed, or one of them was not Nintendo developed if I remember correctly, but it's the next game in a long line of
You talking about
2D
Other
Metroid
M?
games. But
That
I
was
thought there was
internal, wasn't it? No, who did Other
I
M?
thought
Wasn't that platinum?
Other end was Team Ninja.
Team Ninja.
Oh,
There you go.
right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I was thinking there was at least one other 2D Metroid game that was not, but I might be thinking of something else.
Shift.
For some reason, my brain was telling me that Fusion was like something
No.
else. But
Pretty
No,
sure that
no,
was
no,
internal.
Yeah,
see,
that was internal.
this just goes to show you how little I actually know about the franchise as a whole. But this obviously
Federation
had a lot.
Force.
That
Which one was
piece of junk.
That was
Well,
the
again-
3DS one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other significant thing about this game, right, is that when was the last 2D Metroid? Wasn't it like something stupid like 15 years ago or something?
No. The Metroid 2, right? Didn't that just come out? on, like,
Samus
the 3DS?
Returns. Yeah, that was.
No.
I
I'm saying,
think
I'm saying,
Samus Returns,
right,
which
but
was a
this is
remake.
This is a direct sequel to it. Was Fusion 4?
Fusion.
This is
Yes.
technically Metroid 5.
Correct.
Yes.
And Metroid 4, which I guess was Metroid Fusion, came out 15 years ago or something along those lines.
Launched
Something
day
like
and
that.
date with Metroid Prime 1.
That's right. So I feel like this game had a lot working against it, but almost immediately
Fusion release November 18th, 2002.
Yeah,
Holy
boy.
shit.
Yeah, 19 years ago.
For a second, I thought I was like
Man, I'm
overselling it by
old as
saying 15
fuck,
years.
bro. I'm so fucking old.
We
Well, I
all
hate-
are.
Bro, you said
hate to be
2002.
the reason-
I was like, I was fucking 18. I just fucking got out of high school. Shit was good.
I hate to be the person that made you have that realization on this podcast, but yeah.
Metroid. Okay, wait. Can I just say, like, the first thing you notice, like, who gives a shit about the Mercury Steam stuff? Like, we got to give credit where credit's due.
Brad.
Like, no, I know. Like, if you want to get it, like, let's not waste time like talking
No,
about.
I'm with you, Jeff. I don't give a fuck.
Like, yeah,
If it's a good game, it's a good game. Yeah.
Like,
And it's
like,
a good game.
yeah, and like, you know what I mean? Like, people redeem themselves. Maybe things go wrong. Maybe Konami was part of the reason that the Mercury Steam games, like the Vania shit, like, you don't
Mhm.
know. So who gives a shit?
You're
What's
right,
important is that the first thing you notice when you touch this game is, fuck, it feels really good to play.
Yes.
Like, it's
Yeah.
fast, and as you
It's
get more
smooth.
abilities and more traversal abilities, it's so like, I'm so excited to see speedrunners play this fucking game
Oh, yeah.
because like, I'm doing cool shit. Like, You know what I mean? Like the way I'm traversing the world right now, like I'm flying. There's this
And
really
there's stuff
cool
in this
thing.
there's stuff in this footage that is just like and you know, again, I haven't played a ton of the 2D Metroid games, so maybe some of this stuff existed before, but I'm really digging like some of the physics stuff. Like you just went down an
Mhm.
elevator by walking into the elevator itself and then like hanging from the ceiling and like pulling it
Oh no,
down.
that's new. Yeah.
That yeah, see like stuff like that I
Yeah,
think
weighted
is really cool.
platforms. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like that, I was really impressed with how it feels, and that stuff just gets better. Like as you gain more abilities,
Hmm.
the traversal stuff and like how you feel, and you feel badass. And like
Oh yeah.
they did Samus justice. Like she's fucking awesome in this game
Hmm.
in every aspect, like down to like cinematography where you destroy, like you kill an enemy and like the camera's peeking through like their dead corpse and she's like fucking charging up. It's like so good, bro. It's so
Yeah.
good. I fucking
No,
love
yeah,
it.
dude. One of the first like major enemy encounter, not like I guess it's the first boss. Like when you deliver the
Boss. Yeah.
killing blow. Actually, when you first walk in the room, there's some really cool cinematography. But then when you
The little
like you said, when you
cutscenes before and after each like boss encounter are pretty good.
and
Yeah.
you know for a series like this that is so obviously steeped in just really great gameplay, you know, maybe people would argue that Metroid has you know, a deep story or deep lore. I don't know, but like this has just kind of the perfect balance for me. Like really all I need is like a little bit of context, some cool cinematography, some cool atmosphere, and then everything else after that is just
Hmm.
game feel and mechanics, and like when all that comes together, that's all that I need. Like, and I think
So
this game kind of
it's
delivers in
it.
spades in that aspect.
I, I guess it would fall into the mechanics field, but I love, and it's maybe kind of something that I don't think this was in Hollow Knight. Um, when you have the map, if you've seen something on your map, it automatically gets added to the map for you. And
Yeah.
if you know what it is, it tells you what it is. And if you don't know what it is, it puts a question mark on it. And when you discover later on what it is, it populates that question mark with what it is. So if there's like a door or a block that you don't know how to interact with, like it still shows up. So that way later on, once you've gotten that ability and you're trying to backtrack through the world, it's so easy to find where you can go because you now have that ability or the you know the weapon or whatever it is.
So,
Right.
did you guys realize that if you highlight something that you're looking at and you want, you can fucking highlight all of them in that section of the map? It
I
highlights
did
it
not
for you.
know that.
So say you go to say you're looking for energy cells, right?
Hmm.
You can go to the map, go to the nearest one that you're gonna go hunt down, highlight it with like whatever it is, Y, and then all the fucking energy cells on the map will like will highlight and you can see them all. So if you're
Wow.
trying to clean up the area with from items, like say before you go into the last boss, you can like
Hmm.
that ability, like that feature is really nice.
But
Like I
Yeah.
really like that a lot.
it'll only highlight the ones that you've like physically
Yeah,
see,
I think
right?
you have to see them. So if there's a block in a wall that you haven't destroyed, that there's something hidden behind, that one, to my knowledge, probably won't show up, right, Jeff?
no,
Yeah, yeah, you had to have like seen it, but maybe you
no.
just couldn't get to it.
Right,
Right.
though
Yeah,
the hidden ones still show up on your map. They're just the like the strobing white
yeah.
like throb that happens
Mm,
on the map.
mm,
Once you see it, yeah, it's like a throb. You see like this,
yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah,
Throb.
once you see those though, the throb disappears, and then you have the icon. You know what I
Mhm.
Yeah,
mean?
and
So
uh,
that's
uh,
really neat.
another really useful aspect of the map, just kind of building off of that, and I'm sure other games have done this before too, but like, it's like when you pick up an item or you find something in the map, it's not like the game suddenly interprets that as no longer useful information. It marks it on the map and puts in parentheses acquired next to it, so
Yeah.
you can look back at it and be like, okay, I've already got this, but you still know where it was. So it's like
Mhm.
once you get something, it's not like there's no point in removing it from the map because you might be using this to orient yourself.
Right.
If someone's using like a guide or something and trying to like hunt down everything, it's always useful to know
It's
what you've
very
already got.
It's very quality of life stuff. It's
Yeah.
very just like, like, and I'm sure some people maybe don't like that because they remember when they played Super Metroid on the SNES, and like you just had to discover it for yourself. And yeah, sure, but I don't got time for that shit anymore.
Not
So it's nice that if I see it, it shows up, and I can just go back for it later.
That's
you
back when
know,
my parents only bought me one game a year. So,
Yeah.
so
yeah, 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 exactly. Um, I have a huge history with Super Metroid, right? Because it was like my 10th birthday, and I got the game, and it was a big party. My birthday's in July, so it's in the summer, and it was like
Mm.
a big 10, hey, big 10-year birthday for Jeff. Like, let's throw him a big banger. It was a nice day. We ended up having a party. I get Super Metroid, right? But everyone's
stay
over, so I
home.
can't play it. I actually, at the time, I know nothing about it. Like, I have no idea what Super Metroid is. You know what I mean? So I don't get to play it because everyone's over. We end up going swimming and like spending the night. And then when I got home, I'm thinking like, well, I'm not going to play the game. And my parents were like, hey, just keep it down. You know what I mean? Keep it down.
They
And
knew.
you can play. You can play the game. And I stood up to like 3. You know what I mean? Like playing the game, and that's kind of why Super Metroid like holds a dear place for me because I almost instantly remember like sitting by the like 16-inch CRT like with headphones plugged into it like at 1:30 as a 10-year-old like not knowing anything, going into Super Metroid blind and never playing anything quite like that. Like it was a fucking like game changing
It's
experience.
special.
And so
Yeah.
this game like completely does that shit for me. Like there's so much callback to Super Metroid in this. Everything about it is like they were like, okay,
Oh
which
yeah.
one, which 2D Metroid does everyone love? Super. Okay, let's study it and use it as a case to make our game. Um, where to
But
even
but
to the point
also
where check this out. Did you realize like the map scrubbing is straight up just for people who like to scrub maps? Because they even made it so that little freaking Samus icon like has to actually scrub the map. Like you have to
Oh
jump
yeah.
around and scrub the map. Whereas like
Yep.
most Vania games, like once you go into a quadrant, it like junk, you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
portions.
when you walk into a room, that whole room has been discovered now. Versus this, your physical Samus character has to be
Well,
in that little
you're
part.
a giant paintbrush and you have to
well,
paint the whole
Yeah.
room.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think they physically did that on purpose for the people that do enjoy the scrubbing of a Vania map, because like
Hmm.
that is part of that genre. Like I enjoy it, maybe not as much as like this to this level, because like
Yeah. Yeah.
Castlevania scrubs it like in like quadrants, so you could just
Hmm.
jump and then it'll do the top quadrant.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
You don't have to actually like like scrub it as deep as you have to here. But I do like that they like really it looks like they paid attention to like all the things that people love about
Hmm.
the genre and was like, all right, let's do it. Like the secrets in this game, like like I don't know how much guys I've been working on a fucking Avania type game. I've played I've played them all. Like I've played so many fucking Metroidvanias at this point. Um like, the secrets in this one are really good, so, like, I don't know how much of that stuff you
Sometimes
guys are.
almost too good. There have
No, no,
been
that's the
there have
good ones.
been
Those are the
no,
good
no, no.
ones.
There have been 2 occasions so far for me. I've played about 4 hours so far. There have been about two occasions where I got so lost. I was like, I can't believe this. I'm about to Google this,
Mm.
and both times it was something like so stupid, but like so well. I was one instance I was like that was so well blended into the environment I didn't even notice, and the other one was completely invisible, and I was like, how in the world was I supposed to know there was a destructible block right there? Like no clue. But so there's been a few instances like that where on one hand I found myself getting a little frustrated because I'm like I went back and forth between like 2 entirely different areas, and I went through like the entire thing, and I was like I can't find anywhere to progress. Did I soft lock this game somehow? And then I Googled it, and it was just like this one tiny little block that I could destroy that let me go into an entirely different part of the map. And
No,
I was
I
like,
I feel
part
you
of me
there,
wants to,
Nick. That is
Part of me
that
wants
is
to be
one of
mad
the main
about it.
reasons why I have been so hesitant about playing a 2D Metroid game, is watching, runs of that game and seeing, oh, I have to bomb this tiny little block in order to find a way through
Well,
the next passage.
that's why you
but
see me
that
entering
is the
rooms and starting to
game.
just shoot everything. I
No,
just
but
shoot missiles at all the walls. Yeah.
no, guys, but that
And
is
see, if you've watched this footage, you'll see me. Anytime I enter a new room, I go into a morph ball and I bomb a bunch of spots on the ground, and I shoot missiles at like the four corners of the room. Yeah, it's just looking for those secrets. Once you kind of get in that mindset, it's just gonna become second nature.
if
I
you
want to be
don't.
clear. I want to be clear. Like I say that to express the fact that I was frustrated in the moment, but I'm also thinking about it and I can't stop smiling. Like I kind of I genuinely adore this game so far, and even those moments that would in many other games would probably frustrate me, I've found myself just like I don't care. I'm enjoying this. A lot of it has to do with how good the game feels to control. Um, and also once you run into that situation once, and then you kind of you figure it out, it just adds a whole it adds to your internal like lexicon of just like, okay, now I know kind of what I should be looking for or what I should be doing if I find myself in this
That
situation
is
again.
I mean,
that is
I
Metroid,
understand.
bro.
I'm
That is
just saying
Metroid.
that when I had my own experience of that recently, Nick, when I played through Castlevania Symphony of the Night, for the first time. The fact that they gated an entire half of the game behind tricking an enemy into blowing
Yeah,
up a
but
bridge.
This is different, Chris Davis.
Is it though?
This is different. No, well,
A little bit.
that is like listen, Metroid, that is Metroid. Like hunting down for fucking one cube, that is this whole fucking like all their 2D games are that, especially Super Metroid. Like now, imagine like Super Metroid where you don't have any of this like
Yeah.
quality
There's no
of
quality
life
of life
shit,
stuff.
and you
Yeah.
have to find that one fucking spot, right? Like that's a complete staple for this series is hunting down those
Yeah.
cubes. And without spoiling anything, they basically like prove it again in their design of the game through like later in the game without fuck, I can't say anything about it
dancing
because I
around
don't
it.
wanna spoil. Yeah, I don't want to do it, but I'm just saying like they basically tell you that they know that is part of
I'll,
the fucking a staple in the genre. Again, they really paid attention. Like they studied they were like, we're not fucking this up. Like let's do the work. Whether
Right, right, right.
maybe they actually love this game too. Like that's unfair. I'm sorry. I would hate for someone to like criticize me that way. So I take it back. Like maybe they love. That's why this game is great. And maybe they loved Castlevania too, and they just so happened to like want to try something new. And Konami was like, "Yeah, no, you have to try something new," and they fucked it up. But like, for whatever, they're killing it with this. To be honest,
I'll also note that it happened a little bit ago. If you're watching us live and watching the footage, I love the transitions between areas in this game. It's essentially hiding a loading screen, but just either riding an elevator or a
Gorgeous.
train or whatever. Dude, it's just it's so much more satisfying
Dude,
to watch
when
that.
you die in this game, the death animation
Yes.
is so
The
good.
armor like shattering and
but again,
yeah.
that's all super. Like
I mean,
that's
I've
what
never
it is.
died. I didn't know that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Podcast.
Dude, I've died a lot in this game. It is definitely not a baby game by any means.
I die on purpose. Like, okay, so I love the parry. Like the first thing I fell in love with this was the
Oh
parry.
yeah, that's definitely new for this game.
And so like the fighting game like enthusiast in me, like once I got to the first Emmy, I like just practiced. I kept walking in and like just alerting it, having it come to me, and I would just practice fucking trying to parry the Emmy and to the point where like now I'm pretty like efficient with it. It's still like 50-50 because there is a lot of randomness to this game. Like that Emmy parry is actually random. So
Yeah,
um,
it's
never
not.
know
It's
what
not when
animation you're gonna use.
when an enemy catches you, it doesn't. It take 3 seconds and then it does it and whatever. It like will pause for like in between this much time and this much time. So it's not always exactly the same. So it's hard to time it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got different response times. Even if I noticed, even if you even if you miss the first parry, because you have 2 opportunities to parry,
Mhm.
even if you miss the first parry, like, where you miss, like, where you whiff that parry,
Mhm.
changes the, like, what the Emmy is gonna do for her next attack. She might do, like, the really
Okay.
fast fucking, like, you can't even react to it. But, again, I brought up speedrunning earlier, like, that random shit is part of, like, I think part of the thing that makes speedrunning games interesting when they have random shit, because
Mhm.
as much as you hate to see, like, as a speedrunner, it sucks because you hate to, like, go through a run and then a random thing happens and then you're fucked, right? And it
Yeah.
ruins the run. But when you play a random game and you get something that's great, you know what I mean? You get those, like, super awesome moments, right? And this game has that in spades with those Emmy parts, but I don't know about the pacing with that
Mhm.
Uh,
stuff. What do you
uh,
think?
I'm not sure either.
so we haven't really
Another thing.
mentioned. Oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, no. I was just gonna say because we talked about the Emmys, and I don't know if that's where you were gonna go, Nick.
That's where I was gonna go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's something that if you've followed my gaming personality over the years, you'll know one of the things I hate most in fucking games is I hate being chased. And that's all fucking Emmys are. It's just fucking you running away from them because you can't kill them. And me just being like, oh my god, it's gonna fucking get me. And then just me trying to fucking run away from it. And that is literally like I don't know how many I've encountered so far, maybe like 5 or 6 of them. But that is like all those sections are. And the thing is, you don't always enter an Emmy area and then leave and never go backward. You sometimes have to backtrack through them multiple times. Once you've gotten a new ability before you can kind of complete that area. And so it just every time I enter it, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die again. Like,
But
and so it's just scary as they fucking, and then they notice you, and now they're actually actively hunting instead of just searching, and it gets more intense, and the music swells, and like the Emmy starts like running, like
I
yeah.
love the actual chase sequences. Especially when you succeed, like when you escape, or
Mhm.
when you get the thing that you need to actually take one of them out, and then it becomes this like cat and mouse game where you're trying to look for the best opportunity to take your shot, and then you
Mhm.
have to actually not. It's not just about finding the good timing; you actually have to land the shot, and that's really fun. But like those moments where you're just kind of like running and trying to break line of sight, and there's another ability that you get that you can use to, I don't want to spoil that, but just they're a lot more layered than I was expecting. And I would never describe this game as like a horror game or a scary game or anything like that. And I think some people have talked about it in that sense, but it is definitely a different tone or vibe when you enter those areas that make this game feel unique,
Mhm.
because I just did not expect to have the game kind of eliciting those kinds of or getting those kind of reactions, those kind of feelings out of me. It's mostly just intensity and like holding your breath and like trying to like, ooh, I'm gonna try this, and I'm not sure if it's gonna work, and then it does, and you're like, oh, yes, or you fuck it up, and you get that beautiful death animation. Dude,
Mhm. So
it's cool. It's cool.
another cool thing that I wanted to bring up, because the reason I just thought about it was White Fang in chat was asking if the Emmys can follow you between screens. And there's an entrance and an exit to an Emmy area, and as long as you are in that area, the Emmy can follow you between them.
Right.
And that actually made me remember that I hadn't actually experienced that. Obviously, the reason Castlevania and Metroid were designed the way they were was because you couldn't have a giant open area. Think of something like Hollow Knight. When you enter areas in Hollow Knight, they are humongous giant areas with not like a loading door or anything. This game kind of still has it old school where they are much smaller, but the thing
Mhm.
is, you don't actually load a new area when you go between those doors. And the interesting thing about that is also, it's not like they're kind of still exist. Thinking about it from like a gaming perspective, both elements still exist at the same time. And the reason I know that was because I was fighting a newer enemy, and it's one of those big kind of chonking robots that will shoot like a laser beam at you. And it was one of my first times fighting them, and I was already kind of low on health, and they got me kind of down. And so I was like, fuck, I need to kind of back away from this. Let me run out this door. And I run through the door, and I'm in the next room, and a laser comes through the doorway and hits me and
Yeah.
kills me.
Yeah.
Because the room
Yeah.
still exists at the same time, even though like, obviously old school, Super Metroid, if you go between rooms, like you are now in a new
scroll.
area, it is completely different. Yeah, you scroll, this is something new. That's not like that in this. It's still designed similarly, but they both exist at the same time. And so I've been killed as I thought I was like, oh, good, I'm home free. Nope,
Right.
got
Yeah,
killed.
no, I love that happened to me too with a missile. That killed me, and I was like, motherfucker! Like, I can't
Yeah.
believe you can shoot through doors.
Okay,
And
let me-
that's a really cool example of how they've kind of played on nostalgia in a really smart way, because they stuck with the kind of look and design, the way you go through a door and then the whole room kind of like shifts and then you're in the next room. But like instead of doing that for technological reasons where there's the hard cut, like now it's like you still feel like you're playing a classic Metroid game, but there is something inherently different under the hood that they're then playing with mechanics and just tech that didn't exist back in the day. Like, and it's just really cool.
So,
So I'd like to ask this.
Sure.
As far as the Emmys go, so you say they're normally confined to their own little regions. And you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. You can tell me to fuck right off. But is there like a persistent like super Emmy, an enemy that will
No.
You're
track you
asking if there's a
beyond
nemesis
just
in this game?
Huh?
Chris Dave is always spoiling shit, bro.
Are you
I'm just
asking
saying,
if there's
I'm
a
saying.
nemesis in this?
I'm asking for a nemesis. I
Listen,
love
no,
nemesis. You know me.
There isn't. Here's the thing, though. They really don't have to. These sections, like they like break. They like change the pace of the game. Did you guys know, Nick and Nolan, that if you flick the stick left and right, you can shimmy forward?
Oh, yeah.
So when you flick the stick, Nick, you'll gain Aeon or whatever. You'll gain it quicker because when you hide, like when you hide, because you're not using cloak, right?
Yeah.
When you hide, if you're standing still, you don't gain Aeon, right? So if you shimmy, you gain it like you're walking, kind of.
Yeah.
So there's like a little trick. It's like because she doesn't really like creep in this, you know what I mean? So like you can get her to creep forward like slow, very, very slowly by flicking the stick.
All right.
I had to do it.
I'm gonna try this
But-
tonight.
Okay, try it. Flick the stick.
I'm
And
gonna
tell
try
me how it
flicking the
goes.
stick
But
tonight.
Yeah, good.
Chris
I'll
Davis,
report
to go
back.
back to your question, as of now, no, there has not been.
No,
Okay.
there isn't. Chris
But
Davis.
but here's the distinction that and before the game came out, I wasn't really sure how these Emmy things were going to work. But because there's a bunch of different Emmy sections, they're kind of scattered all over this giant map. But because obviously it's a Metroid game, the game is about backtracking a lot. So it becomes a matter of you have to frequently go through these areas to get something you want. So it gets tense when all of a sudden, like, oh man, to get to that, I have to go back through that fucking Emmy area. Shit.
Right. Right.
And that's just a cool feeling. And then, of course, when you deal with one of those particular areas, it's kind of like, relief. But there's so many. There's just a bunch in the game. So, but like,
there's a lot.
when you run into an area, it's suddenly you have to approach it differently than every other area in the game.
To kind of go towards that, expand on it. Whenever you enter a new Emmy area, there is 100% no way you can kill the Emmy. Period. The end.
Yes.
Like you have to do something later on after exploring this new area to find a way to stop them. So when you enter an area, you are now 100% on defense. You are trying to hide, run, escape. Like it is definitely, White Fang in chat, it fills you with a sense of dread because like when you're exploring the world, you're Samus, you're a badass, you can fucking kill anything. But as soon as you enter these areas, you're like, fuck, like I am now like
Do you
kind of running and scared a bit.
do you always know you're entering an Emmy area?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The doors to Emmy areas are easily
there's-
immediately identifiable.
So
There's some exposition in the game. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, like, when you walk through one of those doors,
the film grain.
like there's a film grain. Like it's a little bit darker. The music changes. It's
Gets
very
gray.
obvious.
Everything gets
And
gray.
there's also exposition as to why that is. So it's not just like, the game actually explains, hey, this is why Emmys are in these areas and blah blah blah.
So more importantly, like they like they do it consistently with a lot of the design in this game, but they like do the game design 101 thing where like they build upon themselves. Like these Emmy areas, then they don't feel repetitive. Like the next time you go to an Emmy area, it tests you in a different way. And as you progress through more and more Emmy areas, like the later game Emmy areas, they're like, okay, well, you're getting comfortable with these Emmys. How do you get comfortable in tight quarters? You know what I mean? Because now you have to deal with them in like 2 sections, or like you have to take what you learned, and like they keep constraining and tightening up the like the demands.
Like adding new like obstacles. Like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
yes, you're comfortable with like running from enemies. Well, now if you step on this platform, it's gonna close the door and block the path
Yeah.
in front of you. Like,
Or
fuck
fire.
you. Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
It's
and,
good.
and you know, there's also, in this comparison is not obviously going to be a 1-to-1, but the sentiment that we're describing reminds me of how I felt, or that Jeff was describing reminds me of how we talked about puzzle design in The Witness, where it's like they teach you something, and then the next thing you have to they test you on what you just learned, and then they add another layer to it, and like that's how it's getting. That's how the Emmy sequences. I mean, that's how the whole game kind of progresses. But like the Emmy sequences in and of themselves progress in their own kind of trajectory, very much like that. So
I mean, that's just like good. That's what you would consider like critically. That is good game design. Right? A game, it's like chess. Like they'll teach you first, you learn how to move the pawns, and then you learn how to move all the other pieces, right? And like, and then it gets more and more, and the onion unravels, and you learn more, or it tightens up on you. You know, like if a game doesn't challenge you if it's not challenging you to get better, and this game does that. Like they knock it out of the park, like in a lot of ways. Just like the game constantly challenges you. There's like skill checks, where they're like, okay, like let's put you in a room. Let's see how well you can maneuver yourself around here and shoot and blast and remember all these controls. Because I think the one thing that tells you that this game isn't for like the casual is like the fucking buttons in this game. By the end of the game is like, wait, how do I fucking what?
You're doing like 12 different things and combinations of shoulder buttons and face buttons. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing we haven't talked about yet, and I know we're probably getting close to the end of our discussion on Dread, is the boss fights. Because goddamn, some of them are they're real fucking good. Oh, so Nick, you haven't done the underwater boss fight? Holy shit! You've done that one, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
The underwater, dude. The underwater. It's because it's like it's not just a boss fight. It's they definitely, to an extent, add like puzzles in the boss fights. It is more than just shoot the boss, dodge their attack, shoot them more. It is like you are interacting with the environment. You are having to change things. You are having to like dodge with like specific timing, and also like it got to a point where there's a boss encounter, right? And it's like, oh god, this is there's a cutscene and there's this big deal and it's a boss fight, and then 15 minutes later, that boss you're fighting like another one of that enemy type, and it's like, oh my god, is this going to be like a regular thing? Because that was really hard the first time I fought them, and now like another one's already showing up again.
When games do that shit.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I was impressed with that first boss fight, even though I was like, oh, this is obviously the first boss. It's a little simpler than what's probably to come.
Is that the one? Is that the one that's chained?
I don't remember it being chained.
What was the first? Can you describe?
It had like a big like scorpion looking tail.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah, chains and whips excite me, so I was just thinking about that. No, yeah, I think that's the second boss then. Yeah. So that being said, then that second boss, the one that's like chained up, like that one has like kind of almost puzzly elements to it. You can, once again, it's not just shoot and dodge. You actually having to like think about, once again, like Jeff said, you're being tested based on the new skills you've acquired, and hey, you got this ability, now use it. And it is more so, I'm playing Zelda and I go in a dungeon and I get the bow and arrow, so I got to use the bow and arrow against the boss. It is not that. It is so much more than just shoot it with a bow and arrow. It is a whole lot more of take that functionality and now apply it built on top of your skill set. Yeah.
Okay. But to that matter, like you just mentioned with Zelda design being like you go into a dungeon with a bow, bow's gonna be a critical aspect of that dungeon.
Right.
Are there any maps in this world that are locked behind progress in another world or something like that? Or
I mean, It's a
Everything is
Metroidvania,
locked
so
behind
there
abilities, right?
yeah, well, I would say so far, and don't once again, I am not like a Metroid expert. I have played several Metroid games. The most recent one being Samus Returns. But this one does feel like you were doing a lot more of the traversal between areas, so either taking the tram or the elevator, back and forth, because there are, I wouldn't say like there are sections that are blocked off in this area. So it's not like, oh, here's a, think of Shadow Complex. In Shadow Complex, you would often go back to an area because you now have a grenade and there's a green wall, and so you use the grenade on the green wall, and there's an upgrade behind it, and that's it. It's not like that in this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Shadow Complex. That's one of my fucking favorite games. But in this, it is more so, oh, now that you have this ability, you break open this wall or open this door, and now there is an actual area behind it. It is not just like, oh, here's an upgrade. So there's a significant reason to like backtrack to other places.
Okay.
I will also say, and this is this is not necessarily uncommon, I guess, but like, and I feel like in a lot of Metroid style games, whatnot, you'll unlock an ability, and then that like for the next few rooms you go through are going to heavily use that item or whatnot, or it's kind of like, oh, I just got this item, and that there was like 2 rooms back, I could go use it, and then I would unlock a new area. But like this, I unlock an ability, and I'm like, I could go to any number of these giant maps that I've been exploring, and the way to progress forward in the game might be in any one of them. So like, I just unlocked like the morph ball, for instance, just as an example, and I started looking around in the immediate vicinity for something I could use the morph ball, and I couldn't find anything that like took me anywhere that was like moving the needle forward. And then I was like, fuck, do I have to get on the tram and go back to one of these other areas and just explore until I find something? And that's exactly what I had to do. And like, it just makes the whole experience feel less linear. I mean, it's not really linear in that sense, but like, it makes it feel more open.
So like with my experience, Nick, I found that this game is like continual little loops that like it does feel linear if you don't if you start to read where they want you to go very well, which I think I kind of started to understand how they were like pulling you through the world. Like I didn't get hung up. I started to realize like if you end in if you leave a boss fight and then you go through a room and then you end on a tram, they probably want you to fucking leave. You know what I mean? Like don't think like, oh no, here's the way out. Like, okay, let me see if there's anything else. Like if you really wanted to just like get a grip on like where you're supposed to go, just remember like, okay, they sent me here, like they want me to use this fucking thing.
Mhm.
And like if you take those hints, you will like definitely like find the next like kind of loop through these worlds. Also, there's like these blue butterflies that give you a hint around the world when you're in an area and you're kind of like just going around. You'll see these like blue glowy moths. They kind of hint to you of like, hey, maybe go this way or come through this area.
That's what those are. Sure, I've seen those. I just wasn't sure what they did.
Okay, Nell asked in chat about the music. And I feel like I'm qualified to talk about it. Okay, here's how it should go. Like technically, the music is sound. It's fine. A lot of people are not gonna like it
Music
because
tends
it's
to be
not
actual
heavily.
sound, but yeah.
It's not. No, I mean it's sound. Like
It
it's
is
like
it is
the
not Hollow Knight.
production. No, the production of this. Yeah. The tone of this music is very like sci-fi, strange
Atmospheric.
planet. Yeah, and it's all strange planets. So you're not gonna get like epic melodies. You're not gonna get like those things. You're gonna get like really like just dissident, like sounding like confusion, kind of like what is this kind? And it's supposed to like give you that feeling. Like the music's almost designed to make you also feel anxious and like uneasy and like not feeling good. It doesn't want you to bop to it. It wants you to feel like confused. You know what I mean? But if you appreciate that stuff, there's some good music callbacks.
I will say that when you start this game, there's a big exposition dump, and the music that's going on there is pretty fucking bopping. I will say that, like the music.
No, it's good. I like it.
Yeah, And then also in that regard, it is very much, classic Metroidvania remixes on anytime you get a new item or anytime you defeat, all of that stuff. Yeah, all of that is there, and it is very nostalgic and it feels good. So yeah, it is definitely Metroid.
And the music that you expect to be there is also there. I'll say that.
Good.
You know what I mean?
So real quick, and because we probably need to move on in a second, but we haven't really talked at all about, and this kind of ties into the music, but like we haven't really talked a lot about the presentation because leading into the game, the trailers that I watched and whatnot, I remember thinking this looks like it'll be fun, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly attractive game. I think this game is fucking gorgeous.
Oh my god,
this game is absolutely beautiful, and like you talk
It's
about
also
the music
smooth as fuck.
Yeah, it's smooth as hell. Frame rate's awesome. Like we talk about the music not being particularly boppy, I guess, and you're right. It's more moody, but like when you couple that with like some of the lighting effects and like the set piecey stuff, like there's a sequence where you go into this part of this section of the map where all the power is out. So like it's super fucking dark, and then and like you just see things like sparks making like things flicker, and like you're hearing this like moody sci-fi like what's going on, like you said, strange planet music, and then when you turn the power back on and you like and all it comes back and the music kind of builds with it, like it's great. I love the way this game looks and sounds, even if at the end of the day like I'm not like bopping to the music kind of like I am with Hollow Knight, you know what I mean? Like the presentation is incredible. And I will say this as maybe a kind of a smooth segue, like I'm playing on an OLED. I picked up an OLED this week, and let me tell you, this game looks amazing on an OLED.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Like
the funny thing is like obviously one of the selling points of the OLED is it's better and brighter lights and stuff like that, and it's more vibrant and poppy. Yeah, and that's something that I'm like, that's not a big deal. But ironically, I've been playing this game a lot in my backyard because every day after work we hang out with the dogs in our backyard, and now I'm like, fuck, I wish I had an OLED now because it's hard to see it when I'm outside and it's light. And it'd be nicer if I had an OLED.
It makes total sense that this was the game they launched with the OLED because it has bright areas, and the next room might be dark or dimly lit with these really cool lighting effects, and it takes advantage of it.
Those dark moments where like Samus's visor is like glowing bright, you know what I mean? Like it really pops. It looks fucking good.
I think this is already kind of a shoe-in, and I said this like the first night that I played it. I think this is already kind of a shoe-in for one of the best looking games of the year and one of the best feeling games of the year. Just the way it feels to control Samus around the map is fantastic. But the way they took advantage of the engine and the lighting effects and coupled it with cool music, like it's firing on all cylinders, and I'm totally into it.
I'm telling you, bro, they just nailed it. They nailed it. Yeah. Like this game doesn't stop. It's fucking like, yeah, you want items, you want fucking powers and abilities here, bow, 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 bow.
I feel like what the fuck? As someone who has not finished the game yet, so take this with a grain of salt. I do think this is kind of destined to be one of those 2D Metroid style games that everybody talks about for years to come. Like it's gonna be up there. People are gonna talk about it in the same sentences like Hollow Knight or Ori, or you know what I mean. It's just it's kind of it's the real deal.
I'm going to ask the question, and we may get the answer from Brad's update, but I'm going to ask it. Is Brad's top 10 this year going to be featuring a Mercury Steam game?
Yes. Hey, say what you will. Say what you will.
In chat, show your face, Brad.
Brad gives credit where credit is due. So
I'm fairly certain he will reluctantly, potentially, or just with all due reverence, have this in his top 10. Is my assumption right now.
Yes, for sure.
But one thing I wanted to mention before we move off of the game is White Fang and Chad did want us to make sure we included the fact that there is apparently a fairly big bug in the game towards the end. That the thing is, it's not game breaking. It is fixable. But if you I don't know if you have something highlighted or if you have a map icon towards the end of the game. I don't know when, because they were trying, I guess, not to spoil it. But your game will just crash. And the fix Nintendo has officially put out said, just when you reboot the game, remove that icon or unhighlight whatever the thing is.
But it doesn't break your save data, right?
No. It just if you don't do it, if you don't remove the icon or whatever, the glitch will keep happening and your game will keep crashing. So in that sense, it is, I guess, a soft lock until you do something to fix it. But they have said that they're going to put out a patch at the end of the month.
So I would say maybe if someone can remind me, I'll try and put the link to that article that Nintendo posted about it in the show notes. That way, if you wanna check it out and make sure you avoid that, maybe look in the show notes. If it's not there, I apologize. I forgot.
Yes, matter of fact, we are Glegor. Chris Davis, roll that Brad footage while we take a break. It's the perfect time to do it. Watch
yeah.
Brad eat something with his fucking adorable kid, and he's gonna talk to you about Metroidvania. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette. 4Player podcast. We'll be right back.
Oh my God, Jeff damn Jeff. We'll be right back.
Jeff's need for nicotine just took over the fucking show.
I fucking love it. Oh man.
Hello, and welcome to Brad's weekly update. I think this is the 8th one, I don't know. But we should get right into it because we have two big things to deal with today. First of all, I went over to Krispy Scream and picked up their new Halloween set of donuts. I guess they're spellbook themed, witch themed. We're going to crack into these and honestly, I'm recording this a little bit earlier than I was hoping, but my family's bugging me to they want to get into the donuts, and I didn't want to record the video with the box half eaten. So we're gonna open those up in a second, take a look at them, try one or two. But first we got to talk about Metroid Dread. It's a big week. Metroid Dread is a big game. Y'all know I'm a big Metroid fan. I got Metroid. I mean, I've been talking about Metroid since we've started this damn podcast 13 years ago. So honestly, I could probably ramble all day about Metroid Dread, and I don't want to do that, especially because I don't really want to give any sort of final conclusive thoughts before I finish the game. I have played about 10 hours, but I kind of play those games pretty like exhaustively, so I probably still have a little, maybe twice that, honestly, to go. I think I'm about 50% of the items, but I'm the kind of guy who every time I get a power up, I want to explore the whole fucking world again before I move on. So it takes me a long time to get through a Metroid game. But again, I don't want to do final thoughts. There's a lot of baggage with this one, especially because it's developed by Mercury Steam, the studio that destroyed Castlevania, which is another one of my favorite franchises. So what I'm going to do today is I have a list of 5 things I'm really enjoying about this new game and 5 things that I'm not happy about. And then maybe next week I'll give my final thoughts on the game. So let's get started because I don't want this to be too long. It's probably going to be long, but we don't want it to be too long. First thing I like about the game is it's Metroid. I know that sounds silly, but Metroid's been gone for a very long time. And I know there's a lot of like Metroid style indie games and whatnot out there, but it's just not the same. Metroid being back is a huge thing for me because Metroid is unique. It's distinct. It's good. I love, Samus has cool, unique power-ups. The game is about exploration and finding secrets, and like exploration and secrets are like my favorite thing in games. I love Metroid. I'm glad it's back. This is still very much a Metroid game. I think honestly, Mercury Steam having their first Metroid game be that remake of the second game was a really good idea because it means they couldn't go so out there and turn it into a God of War game, right? They had to make a Metroid game. And I think that Metroid Dread is sort of just an evolution of that game, which was okay, that they did last time. So it's still very much in the Metroid mold, and that's good because Metroid is good and I love Metroid. The second thing I really am enjoying, which I do credit to Mercury Steam for sure, is the way the game controls and plays is great. It's so smooth, it's so fast and fluid, and controlling Samus is just, honestly, it's really great. She has that new slide move, and it's just sort of an extension of the fact that she's already like fast, and now she can like traverse narrow spaces like rather quickly, which is, it's just a joy to control. And moving around quickly and fluidly is very important because my third favorite thing about this game, or I guess these aren't really ranked, but the third thing I want to bring up is that the hook, I guess the gimmick for this game is that you run into these robots called Emmys, and they're sort of like these unkillable robots for the most part, where if they get a hold of you, you're dead for the most part instantly. So it's this very like serious, real threat, and you have to use all your abilities. You have to just get around, figure out ways to get around them, and they give you some tools, but usually it's just about moving fast and quickly and fluidly through the environment. And luckily, the controls support that. And I just think that the Emmys are a cool evolution of the stuff they were doing with SAX and Metroid Fusion, and some of the stealthy Zero Suit stuff that they were doing in Zero Mission. And this is a cool like systems mechanics driven evolution of that, and I think it works really well. The Emmy zones are pretty intense. And I guess the fourth thing I really like about this game, I guess it's more of a credit to their last game, but I really like the counter mechanic. It's one thing I didn't think I was really going to like going into Samus Returns. They bring it back here. It feels even faster here. It's more fluid here. You can do it while you're sliding and jumping, and it just feels really badass when you pull it off. And I think there's some like interesting enemy types that really support it. There's always going to be that flying enemy that rushes at you, but then there's some other cool ideas that have like a pretty interesting twist on the counter, and it just feels good to do. Maybe this is more about the controls, but I just want to give a thumbs up to the counter move. I do really like it. And fifth, I just want to say I appreciate that the game feels difficult, especially the bosses. I always worry about like a modern day Nintendo game being a little too easy. This game's not really pulling its punches. It is challenging in terms of combat, challenging in terms of bosses, and challenging in terms of the secrets and stuff. They're really still tricky, and I feel like that's really important as well. A lot of Metroidvanias have puzzles and secrets, and honestly sometimes it's too easy, but here it's pretty cool. But let's get to, what are we at, five minutes? We're good. 5 things I don't really like about this game, and the first one's a big one. Did I say that ultimately I am really enjoying this game? So I don't want people to take this the wrong way. The first thing is I don't really like the actual world of the game as much as I do some of the other Metroid games in the series. I think it's very big, which is good, but it is very like how should I say this? The areas, they lacked like a visual distinctness. I feel like, especially because there's a lot of Emmy zones, and when you clear out an Emmy zone, it just becomes a big part of the area that you're in that looks the same as all the other Emmy zones, and that's such a large portion of the map. And even though you're kind of jumping back between like area and area, it's hard to get like a kind of a distinct feel that you get from some of the best Metroid. Like take Metroid Prime, right? Like you're not going to confuse Talon Overworld with the Phendrana Drifts, or like the sunken space frigate or whatever, right? Those are like very distinct, memorable areas, and I feel like distinct, memorable areas is such a big part of a Metroid game, and that stuff's a little lacking here, and I find that kind of frustrating, because that's honestly one of the highlights of the series. And you compound that with the fact that with the way the world is set up is you're bouncing between these areas a lot, and they use teleporters. And I don't know if the Metroid games ever really used teleporters per se. There's always a lot of like elevators, but what happens is you're in one area and you'll find a teleporter that takes you to another completely random area, and you're using these a lot. And what happens is, like, I find myself kind of like not really being able to like put together like the map in my head, right? Like I rely on the map screen a lot because of these teleporters. It becomes convoluted, more convoluted than it needs to be, because I'm just teleporting all over the place, and I'm like, I don't know where the fuck I am. Honestly, at any given point, if you put me in on the map of this game, I don't know if I could tell you really where I was. That's how confusing it can be sometimes, and that does lead to like getting lost and stuff, right? Because the map is so big, because you teleport around all over the place. Sometimes it's hard to read the signs that the game's trying to tell you of, like, here's the critical path, especially when you're going back to explore and like open doors and get power-ups every time you get an upgrade, like the way I do. Sometimes kind of finding the right place to go is confusing in this world because of, I think, the way it's designed, because of the lack of distinct areas, because of the teleporters. And I've played a lot of Metroidvanias, and I've played a lot of Metroid games specifically, and I feel like I'm scratching my head way more than I'm used to. And I think it has to do with the way the world's designed it. And honestly, maybe the map screen itself. The map screen, they put so much information on the map screen that when you look at it, it's just like information overload, and it's hard to parse. I have a hard time looking at that map and going, oh, well, I should go here. While in the older games, the map was more like abstracted and, oh, well, that blue square isn't filled in all the way. That's probably where I need to go. Or like dead ends were a lot more obvious because the map was a lot more abstracted as well. Here, it's just like, it's exhausting looking at the map screen sometimes, honestly. It's something that has improved the more I played it because I'm just getting used to the vocabulary of the UI, if you will. But at first, I was definitely, getting kind of frustrated with it. 2. I feel like I have to justify like negatives more often because people are like already shaking their fists, and that tends to be why I talk more about the negatives of that I'm experiencing in a game. But part of the reason that the world structure and the teleporters is an issue for me is the number 2 problem I'm having with this game is that the load times, especially in these teleporters, take so fucking long. If they just had the thing they wanted to do be in the area I was already in instead of me having to teleport to a completely different area, I wouldn't have to deal with this huge loading screen. And I've dealt with loading screens my whole life, but it's really frustrating here because I just want to explore the world. I want to go back and get power-ups, but I know I'm going to have to go through like 3 or 4 of these really long loading screens, and it's really kind of dragging things down. Third negative is I don't think the music and atmosphere is up to snuff for a Metroid game. And this is the issue I think I had with Samus Returns, but no standout music here. In fact, some of the music in some of the areas, I honestly I get a little annoying to me. Like I think some of it's bad. And, again, good music goes hand in hand with Metroid. So for the music to be kind of not great is frustrating for me. And a lot of that plays into the atmosphere. If the music's not good, if there's not a lot of like cool, unique visual distinctness, the alienness that you see in a lot of areas in a Metroid game, a lot of that's gone. That means, I'm not getting the same sense of atmosphere that I expect from a Metroid game. The one exception is like maybe the Emmy zones. When there's an Emmy out there, it is pretty like the sense of dread and atmosphere is pretty good there. But once that Emmy's gone, or once you're in another part of the world, it's just not really all that very atmospheric. And finally, a couple more nitpicks because I need a 4 and 5. I am enjoying this game. Is I think the new powers are not really all that memorable. The ones. So Samus is famous for having like some pretty iconic powers, right? Morph Ball Bomb. The Shine Spark is one of the greatest power-ups of all time in any video game, I'd argue, right? But some of the new ones they added in this game, like I just got the Storm Missiles, and that just seems whatever, like it only exists to open a particular kind of door. It's kind of clunky in combat. The dash is one they showed off in trailers a bunch, and most of the time I honestly forget that I even have it. It just doesn't feel as cool or iconic as the stuff that Samus typically has. If Mercury Steam made one iconic power, it's that the counter that they had in Samus Returns, and that's back, and that's why it was on my likes list. But my dislikes is everything else. And finally, again, a small nitpick is I just think the Emmy design, the gameplay wise, the design of the Emmy, fucking awesome, right? But visually, it looks kind of like a generic robot, and that sucks, right? Because you expect really iconic enemy designs from a Metroid game, and this feels like it could be in any game. And then they mix it up a little bit by changing the colors, they just change like a flat primary color, like, oh, this one's yellow and this one's blue, and it feels like something they added late in development or some shit, because it almost feels slapped on literally. And so I don't know, I just don't like the look of the Emmys. I didn't even buy those amiibos because I think it looks so stupid. But again, that's the final nitpick. That's 5 things I like, 5 things I don't like about Metroid Dread. We've been going so long. Let's eat these fucking donuts. All right. Spellbook. Sorry it's so long. This has to go on the podcast. Oh man, it's like a book and I'm ripping it open. That's sad. All right, what do we got here? What are we working with? What are we working with? The lighting here is not great. All right, we got... Okay, I'll just hold these up. Ooh, this one's cool. I already like this one. Oh, and it's like a cake donut. They're like little cauldrons. You see that? And there's a little, what is that? Like a spoon, a stir? What do you call the thing that you stir food with in a cauldron? I don't know. That's cool. I like that one. This one's just an orange donut with some sprinkles. Very Halloweeny. I like it. We have a witch's broom. This is cool. I don't know how I feel about pretzels on donuts. I'll probably take those off, but that looks cool. I like that. And finally, we have a very cool black cat. Very Halloweeny. I love Halloween. It's the best holiday. It's my favorite holiday. Let's get into these donuts. Let me try this cauldron, because I love a good, like a glazed cake donut, like a buttermilk or a sour cream. Let's try. Although, I'm remembering, not my favorite from like Krispy Kreme. I have some goo coming from the bottom. Let's, that messy. Not bad. Not bad. Probably not going to eat the pretzel. Let's take one more bite of these, and we got to end this, or Nick's going to kill me. I don't know what's on this, the fur of the cat on this black cat. Looks kind of like caviar. I doubt it's caviar. We'll take a bite of this one and then just end this shit. Thanks for listening to my thoughts on Metroid. But, you know, I'm not on the podcast. I got to get this shit out. All right, let's take a bite. It's caviar. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, some sort of chocolate sprinkle. My tongue is black. All right, y'all have a good week.
Hey guys, welcome back from the break. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't not listened to Brad's update yet this week. I don't know what he said about Metroid, but what's up, Jeff? You were watching, right? You were listening.
Yes.
Give us the rundown. What
he likes
was
it.
Brad's? He likes it.
He was just being nitpicky, and he plays Vanias in a different way. So you have to be real light with his criticism, because he like I play kind of different than he does. So I typically I just like let myself naturally find my way without like really backtracking through areas where I can tell there are secrets. And then once I get all the abilities and it's like, okay, wrap up time, then I go back and go find all the secrets. Cause I don't want to like backtrack through an area to have to leave one thing behind and then go back to it again when I have that ability again, you know? So I kind of
That's
just
actually a pretty practical way of approaching it, I think.
Yeah, then once I get to the end and I have all the shit, then I'm like, okay, now let me do cleanup hype. You know?
I kind of split it down the middle, where as soon as I get a new ability, I don't backtrack, or two or three. I'll like wait till I've gotten a good chunk of them, and then I'll go and backtrack. So I do it like maybe once or twice instead of having to do it a bunch.
Well,
Y'all have more self-control than I do. I immediately feel the urge to go and like try and use that new ability. But I get where you're coming from.
This game does a good job of like really giving you something like 2 rooms from where you are. There, you're always like every time you get an ability, it seems to be like, oh shit, like I can use this in like 2 areas, so I'll do that. Mm-hmm. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Well, we're not going to talk more about Metroid Dread this segment because we've talked a lot about it already. But you know what? That game's pretty damn good. So what I do want to do is there's a couple other games we want to mention. We don't have footage for this tonight, but I do know that Jeff and Chris Davis have played a little bit of it. But we have maybe early impressions of Back 4 Blood.
Yes.
Right. So what? First of all, I guess Jeff, how much Back 4 Blood have you played? I mean, it's only when did it come out? This week, right?
Tuesday. I started. Yeah. I started playing it Tuesday.
I think technically it launched on Friday as like an early release thing.
It just came out.
Ultimate Edition. But...
Long story short, it just came out.
Yeah.
Long story short, it just came out. So, Jeff,
and it's got weird things going on with it, like for some reason, the Game Pass version of the game does not have a full screen option on PC, but it has borderless full screen and windowed.
I've actually run into a couple other PC games where I noticed the same thing, where there was
It's
only a
fucking
borderless
weird
windowed.
though.
Yeah, it's weird. But anyways, Back for Blood. This is obviously the spiritual successor, if you will, to Left 4 Dead. I guess it's made by a lot of the same people who worked on Left 4 Dead. It's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically Left 4 Dead with
Yeah.
a new brand.
Yeah, it's
not
Left 4
so
Dead, and
much.
if you're a Left 4 Dead like diehard, you're probably one of the people online like hating, like just not happy with the game because it doesn't have player versus player, whatever it is that they had, because this game doesn't have that. You know what I'm saying? So
I was actually just recently shocked to find out that was like a major, that was a major mode for Left 4 Dead. When I think of Left 4 Dead, I almost exclusively think about it as those campaigns, those co-op campaigns, and anything
Yeah.
outside of that, I just wasn't very interested in.
Hold on,
too.
I thought that did exist.
So there is no versus campaign mode like in
Okay,
Left
so
4
there's
Dead
no
1 and
versus
2.
campaign.
There
Gotcha.
is a multiplayer adversarial mode, I believe, called like Horde or something like that, in which you are in like set environments, and the humans are just trying to survive as long as they can, and the special infected, the enemy team is, just like in versus campaign in the original Left 4 Dead games, spawning in off screen and kind of just coming in and trying to take you out. The thing about that is that there's multiple rounds to a map and at least 2 rounds per match. And in between matches or in between rounds, you're switching back and forth, and then spending your upgrade points to either upgrade your weapons if you're a survivor, or as the special infected, to upgrade yourself or the common infected.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they're designed to be
Add
played
new
really
wrinkles,
quick.
right?
What?
Is that to like add new wrinkles from round to round to like
Yes, to
make each one
increase
feel a little bit
difficulty
different?
yeah. These rounds are each designed to take less than 5 minutes to complete.
Gotcha.
And after the first wave of this infected, there will be a battle royale style circle that'll start slowly creeping in towards the center of the map. And it forces survivors, into certain spots, and it makes it easier for the special infected to kill them.
Gotcha.
I've
That
played
sounds
several
dope.
matches of this, and it's actually pretty fun.
I'm glad you did, because I didn't.
It's
I
it's
didn't
it's
touch
not
this at all.
it's not that strange, unbalanced yet balanced versus campaign experience from those old games, but it gets kind of close. Since you have 9 different special infected you can play as, and you can upgrade them with the points that you earned from just playing as those infected. You can get special abilities or more health or things like that. And I think like the twists they put on the special infected now, all the tropes from Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 are kind of there. But I think that like they kind of remix some of the abilities to where they're a bit more interesting. The boomer's still there. He'll still barf on you and he'll still kind of fuck up your vision. But they have things like a take on the somewhere between the smoker and the spitter from Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. So this one is called I believe it's called the hurler or the herker. The idea is that you'll charge up a meter, and when you fire it at a survivor, it will pin them in a location, and they'll be trapped, and they can't get out unless one of their fellow survivors comes up and melees what's pinning them.
Yeah.
And I think
But
the
have you
balance they
played
got around
more
here.
of this mode? Have you played more of this mode at this point than the actual like campaigns? Because it sounds like Jeff's been focusing entirely on what the co-op, like the standard, I guess, what you associate with Left 4 Dead.
Granted, I've only played a couple hours, but technically speaking, yes, I played like 3 or 4 different matches of the versus mode. And then what I've experienced so far, the actual campaign, was playing through those alpha training levels that we've experienced back in December. I've only played like one of the fresh new levels, and I did not survive that.
Gotcha. So, Jeff, what have you been focusing? I mean, what's your experience with Back 4 Blood? been
I
so
just
far?
been squatting up with some homies, and we're just playing through the acts and stuff. That's typically what I do. Like I don't like to play or I typically don't play games like this competitively. Like I'm not trying to do PvP. I just kind of want to play the campaigns, and they feel Left 4 Dead-y. They're not very like, I don't know, crazy or
It's an
you know.
interesting structure that they've got with this game. So
So here's the thing. The thing is like, if you wanted, like, I think fans wanted it to be like I feel like they're just setting the foundation for it. You know what I mean? So they kind of had to rebuild some of that stuff, and instead of like building off these characters and making harder or different character designs or whatever they are, they're very like, what they did. You
Yeah,
know,
Mhm.
it's
they're
basically,
foundational.
they didn't change much. It just felt like, okay, well, we don't have Left 4 Dead now, so let's rebuild that foundation. And primarily, instead of them spending time like designing, like coming up with new interesting character design, enemy designs and stuff like that, I think they kind of said, okay, let's take those, let's kind of recreate those that we already have, and let's work on this like, card thing that the
Mm,
game
mhm, mhm.
has now. Like, at a glance, you can look at the card thing and you can be like, this is probably like a cash in and or whatever. But like, really, I think the card thing so far, I haven't run into anything that makes me feel like the card thing is trying to like take my money or like
No.
it. So the card, you build a card deck, Nick, right? When you do things in the game, achieve certain things or whatever, get drops after the end of X, like you might get a card. The cards are random for everybody that gets them, and it's like a random shuffle on a card. You get to pick one of the cards and you add it to your deck. Those cards are your buffs. So instead of like them giving you a ton of weapons where you like, oh yeah, no, my gun has this buff, or and then there's more loot drops. Instead of like having the weapons be the loot drops, the cards are the loot drops, and you play the cards randomly through each act. At the
Kind of
beginning of
like
the
that.
act, you can like throw. Yeah, the reason I like it is because like I feel like you can do different kind of builds depending on how you want to play today. You know what I'm saying? You're not stuck
Mhm.
in a build. You might use a different card this time around, or have or a whole set of cards or a whole deck. You might
Yeah.
decide to be like, oh, I'm going to go more for a more melee focused deck. So you make a melee focused deck, and now you're like, you're using cards that are like 300% damage
Hmm.
when in critical health to undead. You know what I mean? So that stuff is really interesting, and I'm still early. Like, I'm 5 hours in. We played like the first act or whatever. But like, um, that stuff seems like it could be interesting. Like if they add cards and they keep making uh, newer things.
Are so at the time of release, how many like campaigns
Okay,
are
so
I
it's not structured like that. This isn't like Left 4 Dead 1 2, which there were campaigns with 4 set levels and a finale.
Mhm.
Instead, they're going on a act structure with blocks of levels within an act. So there's like 3 or 4 acts to it, but like the first act has like 8 or 9 levels, and then the second act is like 5 or 6 levels, and so on and so forth. And
Yeah.
I think they're kind of built around a narrative structure because
Mhm.
in between the blocks of levels within an act, there's an active cutscene that plays and introduces you to more
Hmm.
characters and more events of what's going on in the story.
Gotcha.
They're
Interesting.
they're really, I think, putting a much bigger effort towards having a narrative this time around than the first two Left 4 Deads.
The question is that a good thing?
I
You
think
know
it
what I mean?
kind of
Like
is.
I mean, it sounds cool, but like I don't know how this that's not at all what they were trying to do with Left 4 Dead, and I just don't know. This team has not done anything before that I can think of that has given me any kind of indicator as to how good they are at like telling a story or creating that kind of presentation.
I mean,
Especially in a game like this that already has such a like everybody already kind of associates this with Left 4 Dead, so it's kind of like they were already good at doing those really cool like like they did like a cool cutscene at the beginning of the game, and then from that point forward, all the story was basically just like environmental storytelling and like characters talking to each other.
To be clear, like their Turtle Rock's foundation as a company was making Counter-Strike ports, and then it did Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, and then Left 4 Dead, and then Evolve, and they did a few other things in between for Oculus, I think. But yeah, this is like I think their first real stab at trying to create a world. And I also think they're doing a good job. So, when you're not in the game, or when you're not in a campaign map or a versus mode, you're not in menus. You're actually in a fort hub area, in which you can run around and you can upgrade your supply points, and you can experience new weapons and unlock little like quest objective things. It's just this nice little kind of hub area for you to kind of run around in while you just wait between matches.
As opposed to being locked in a tiny room.
Well, no,
like
I mean,
Left4Dead.
I'm not even talking like a safe room in Left 4 Dead. I'm talking about like in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, when you weren't in the game, you were in a menu.
Yeah.
But now in between actual matches and campaign levels, you're actually in a hub area running around with your friends. There's like a little boxing arena. You can go do melee fights against your friends, things like that. And it's just little nice little touches.
Cool.
But no, I think
So the question,
my opinion, I was kind of down on this game after having played the alpha and kind of hearing some of the supposed monetization that was going on. I wasn't happy, and I was really upset when they announced that there wasn't like a traditional versus campaign mode. But after playing the versus mode and getting a taste for like more of the finished campaign experience, I have a much better opinion of this game.
they're going to keep going.
I'm definitely going to continue going.
If they keep up with it, like again, like if they keep up with the game, if they add new cards, if they're doing updates, if they're adding new campaigns, which there's it looks like they have it planned, because you could buy the version of the game that costs $100 with 2 seasons or whatever. So like it looks like they have plans to keep up with it. Like, yeah, the card thing could be super interesting. You know what I mean? Because it really changes it up every single time. And the cool thing that I like is that during different scenarios, you get corruption cards. That's like cards that forces you into tight spaces, and that's all random every time you start. So there could be a corruption card that's like, okay, there's birds around, and if you alert the birds or scare the birds, they will send a horde after you, right? And that doesn't happen every time, but now in the scenario of map, you pulled that card, so now that's what you have to deal with. It could be a card. It could be a card of like healing. All healing items do 30% less for this. So there's these like negative buffs that kind of get thrown at you randomly, and so like the replayability for these acts is like kind of really high to me, especially again if the card thing works out and like they get new cards and more interesting cards pop up. It's just a really like addictive kind of game loop of like playing this shit with your friends and being excited to play it again tomorrow, even though it's like it could be the same scenario. It really doesn't necessarily matter for the scenario, because like you're getting cards and you might, it's that like that addictive drip of like, oh shit, what am I getting at the end of this? So
it sounds like almost like a roguelike in a way, like
a little bit.
in that
It's got those mechanics kind of.
Yeah.
I'll be curious because this is a Game Pass game. I'm really curious to see, because the last game they did, Evolve, kind of flopped if I remember correctly, just in terms of critical or like financial success. Like I don't.
It was a great idea.
It flamed out pretty quick,
but it didn't last very long.
There was a lot of spice when it first came out, and a lot of people liked it, but it had no staying power is the only issue.
And
it was a fun thing to play for like an evening or two, but then afterwards it kind of just got old pretty quick.
So,
the problem was
is
that
this has been, will this have staying power?
Well, no,
And
I
will
think it
Game
does.
Pass help with that? Will
I-
Game
I-
Pass help with that?
I think it will. Because this Back for Blood really feels like Turtle Rock taking it back and saying, okay, we made 2 games with the same basic gameplay formula. What else can we do with it? And like we've been talking about, like the cards introduce a new element to it. They've introduced quite a bit more randomization in the maps as far as things you'll find. Like now you'll find locked doors that if you have a toolkit you can open and get the loot inside. There'll be more. There's a lot more randomized loot there that you can get equipment and upgrades for. There's also tiered loot that makes you really want to explore the environment. And another thing is that so there's 8 characters you can play as in the campaign, and each one is their own class. They're not just like in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, to where the only reason you pick a character is because you want to hear that character talking.
Yeah.
In this,
Yeah,
like,
they come with cards.
yeah,
Like,
they
come with
come with cards, but
special cards,
they also
right?
come
And
with, they're more like special abilities. Where, for example, Holly is a melee focused character, and if you build a deck of cards around her focus on melee combat, you can make her a pretty interesting thing to play as. Then there's on the opposite side, there's a character called Mom, and if you, she's all about healing and picking
Healing,
up players. So if you build up your deck around healing items and abilities, you can make something pretty interesting out of that. There's a lot of
It
ways
sounds
you can
cheaper.
there's
build out your
stereotypes.
experience.
Yeah, there's like shells of classes that they give you, and then like kind of like how you decide what deck you're going to use. Like you can build, the cool thing is you could build 5 different decks. You could build a melee deck, you could build a destructive deck, you could build a sneak deck, a healer deck. You could build all these decks, and then when you want to
Swap
use
them out.
those decks, you just swap them with the character that gives you an extra boost. You know what I mean? Because each character comes with like a card, like a passive card that says like, mom does take it, revives people quicker and gives you, whatever, like she her healing items do 30% more than everyone else's normally, you know what I mean? Like, so obviously like that's the character you want to play some healing decks with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool that they have those like you know like class tropes, you know what I mean, based on the character. And it's not just like, I want to play this character, just because that's the character I like to stare at or whatever,
Yeah, I'm I'm really interested to see to try this out, especially knowing that it's on Game Pass. In fact, I completely forgot about that, and
Let's
I'm
play
like,
Nick.
yeah, I'm
Let's
down.
play it.
And
Do it.
people in chat were asking about crossplay. It sounds like there's
Yeah, there's
There is
crossplay.
crossplay, yeah.
And,
I have,
and we don't have to worry about if we're playing PvE, like who gives a shit, like crossplay.
Yeah.
Even if you're on PC, like you want to fuck up zombies better, like go for it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't hurt this game much,
I find it kind of interesting that like prior to this release, I had no idea there was a card element to it at all. Like I don't feel like that was featured in the marketing at all.
Remember,
about
like
it.
last time I was on
Doesn't
here, it
listen
was
to
my
us.
hype. Yeah, last time
Yeah,
I was
we've
on here,
talked about it.
I put it on my hype last time I was on the podcast too.
No, I do recall that. I'm just saying, like literally before we had this conversation on the podcast, and like, it's just kind of strange to me that like there was no emphasis on that from official channels. At least not that I saw. Like Turtle Rock wasn't really being forthcoming about the fact that.
Well,
like, there's a heavy
they
card-
were not saying, "Hey, there's a card element to it." They were saying, "Hey, this is the Left 4 Dead that y'all have been wanting." That's what
Yeah,
they
Yeah,
were
I-
yeah,
doing.
they
I
didn't
think
want to.
this-
They didn't want to like sell a card game because they knew like fans, and then again, of course, like the hater fans, like the diehards are like, they're gonna monetize this thing, and I don't know what the plans were. I don't really like. I've been staying away from like all the bullshit and nowadays about everything, you know what I mean? Just because it just drags me down. So like I didn't pay attention to any of that shit. I just looked at what the mechanics were that were on the table, and I was like, okay, does this sound cool? Like, yes. Is it more Left 4 Dead? But could it be better? Like, sure, but like I haven't played Left 4 Dead in a long time, and like it's a new thing sitting here with a cool, like what seems to be a pretty cool, addictive, like little card like side mechanic that
Yeah.
is really interesting. So, but
Uh,
yeah, let's play, man. I definitely
I'm
like.
down. I have a quick question. Just given the fact that it's October, do you think this would make for like a fun like
Yeah,
Halloween type stream? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, hell
Cool.
yeah.
So I'm planning on playing a
Yeah,
few
sure.
Halloween games this month, anyways. So yeah, fuck it. Let's play some on the stream.
I mean, it's not particularly spooky, but it will jump at you if you're kind of not paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, it's got the atmosphere. I feel.
Yeah,
I mean, what I've seen so far, it seems like it's got a cool
yeah,
atmosphere.
the cutscenes are good. You know what I mean? Like, and they're long. Like, that's the one thing I will say that I don't remember being a thing in Left 4 Dead. But there's like cutscenes at the beginning and end of like every. So the act has different, like, let's say, chapters. So like, and these acts are long. It's not just like Act 1 is 3, just like Left 4 Dead 3 different scenarios, and then the act's over. Like, get on the plane or get on the boat or get on the bus. Don't leave anybody behind, right? So this
Yeah.
one is like there's Act 1, and then there's like Chapter 1 is 3 levels, Chapter 2 is 3 levels, Chapter 3 is 2. Like there's different like segments of the act. You know what I mean? And I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure if like you have to, and you again like it's unit based on saves too. So like you could fail an act and have to start back over again.
Right.
You know, based on the team, which is cool. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it
All right.
seems promising, you know.
Cool. I hope it has legs. I really do genuinely hope it has legs. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again on a future show once we've all had more of a time to play with it a little bit. But yeah, that's Back for
Yeah,
Blood.
it's a thick game, right? So like,
Thick.
we
With 2
barely,
Cs.
Dummy thick.
yeah, exactly. So like, we barely scratched the surface. Like, you know, who knows? The cards could be lame. Like 10 hours in, we could still be getting dumped the same lame cards and be like, oh, this is like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not enough. But who knows? We'll find out.
We will get to the bottom of it and report back on a future episode of this podcast. All right, real quick, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. I talked a little bit about Far Cry 6 last week, so I want to give a quick update. I want to preface this. I recorded some footage, and I wanted to kind of show off some of the more lighthearted elements of the game, some of the different mechanics, the things that you can get into, and I want to say there's some cockfighting in this in this footage, and for that, I apologize. I don't endorse it, but let me tell you, the cockfighting shit is pretty.
Don't
funny.
say it. Don't say it, Nick. Don't say
Dude,
it.
are you watching? Have you seen what they did with
Yeah,
this?
I've seen it. Yeah.
It's. I feel so bad. I feel so bad saying this, but that shit's. It's like
It's
a Mortal
so
Kombat game.
this game is so weird because like I feel like they lied to Giancarlo Esposito. They like lied to him and was like, "This is like no, act the fuck out of these scenes." Like,
Yeah.
yes,
No.
like this is a serious game. Like you see him on the commercial, he's like, "I'm the worst villain ever." Like, buy it, buy Far Cry 6. And then like I don't think they showed him the stuff in between that's like wicked campy and like funny and kind of like ridiculous and like.
You're
You know?
absolutely right. But you
They
know
lied
what?
to him.
It's I don't mean not even necessarily. I don't think that they lied to him. It's more of just it's probably a matter of like, you know, if they want to do the research, they should probably do the research and see what kind of game they're making. There's like just like 10 games before this, they can kind of get an idea of what
Yeah.
the soul of this series is. But that's not something unusual to this game. I think, and this is something I've heard other people talk about, and I do agree with it. As I'm saying this as someone who is, you know, liked several Far Cry games a lot. But there is a butting of heads here between this idea of like these stories that are, you know, that maybe take itself more seriously than everything else in the game, and that feels at odds with each other. But at the end of the day, say what you will about it. I mean, I think the important aspect of it is the fact that it's a sandbox, and how fun is that sandbox to play around in, and. You know, I have a lot of problems with Far Cry 5. I have a lot of problems with several of the other games, just in terms of like what they have you doing and like how annoying it is to be running around the world. And like one of the things, you know, it was so hard to run around the world in Far Cry 5 and just focus because you were constantly being attacked by random soldiers, and like you couldn't you couldn't get away from firefights, and I found that to be rather annoying. And then there was the whole weird thing about how they chose to do these random boss fights in the game, where they would suddenly, like, without any warning at all, pull you out
Yeah.
of of the world and force you into these scenarios, which was, I think they were going for this, like, you never know when it's going to happen, so it's interesting when it does, and it just didn't work. They don't do that in this game. In fact, a lot of the changes they've made seem to be kind of specifically addressing a lot of the complaints that people had with the previous game. And everything that they've done to this one seems to be kind of in the interest of just making a really fun sandbox. And a lot of the characters that what Jeff was talking about with the villain is it's even more apparent because he's like the only self-serious character in the game. Like, every other character in this game is like wacky personality.
It's so
And
weird,
it is very weird.
right?
It is a
Like, it's
very
so
weird
it's
thing.
so weird. It's like at odds with itself between cutscenes, like,
Yes.
constantly.
Is he even remotely interesting beyond the fact that it's just fucking Giancarlo Esposito doing the
No.
role?
No,
Well, first of all, let me tell you, I can't even answer that question accurately because I've only played about 10 hours of this, and I haven't really had many run-ins with him. You hear his voice a lot, and you see his face a lot because he is on propaganda all over the island, and that's kind of the. But, like, I haven't had any interactions with him as a character outside of what you see in the intro of the game, and the way I play these games, I play very slowly. It's the reason I end up spending like 70 hours in a game like this is because I've been playing for 10 hours and I haven't even like visited half the areas in the first major section of the island. And this
Can I
game
ask
is
a quick question?
yeah, go ahead.
Does the footage look so bad because you recorded it in like HDR or something?
That might be, yeah, and I didn't realize it until it's a much brighter, much more vibrant game.
Yeah, my assumption is the recording is HDR transitioned into not HDR, which is why it looks so like dull. Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah. And there's people I've seen a few people comment on, like, the game doesn't look very good, and I had to, like, scoff at that and be like, what are you talking about? This game, I mean, it is very clearly the same engine, or the same approach to world design that they've had in the past, but, like, I think this is, from a technical standpoint, one of the most beautiful games I've played all year. Like, it's drop dead gore. I mean, I am playing on PS5. I think there's, if you play on PS4 or a lower end PC, it may not be as noticeable, but playing on PS5 for the most part has been silky smooth and absolutely gorgeous. And I think and it has a photo mode. Like, holy shit, it has a photo mode, and I'm already dreading the number of hours I'm probably going to spend dicking around in that. But the things that I think are really fun in this game, like, they make everything. There's a lot of quality of life things they've added to this, just in terms of, like, how easy it is to build up your collection of cars and vehicles and get like, summon those and get into them on the fly. How easy it is to set up your build, like, swap out weapons, and you have the Supremo, like the thing on your back that fires rockets and stuff. But there's different versions of that which allow you to do different things. Like, there's a thing that lobs, like, poison that makes enemies fight each other. There's an EMP one that fight, like, EMPs are a big thing in this game, and they're a lot of fun. You can knock helicopters out of the sky by just turning them off, which is super fun. So yeah, and like the little thing, like the amigos, man. I'm gonna be honest, like, I just unlocked Chorizo, the little wiener dog in the wheelchair, and I was like,
chorizo, the fucking wiener dog, and the
dude. First of all, that I was like, I don't want to take this little puppy into battle. Like I feel so bad, but, like, you can send him to distract guards, and he, like, runs up with a little wheel. It's so funny. You summon the little dog, and I'm like, where is he? And I hear his wheelchair, like the little wheel,
Like
the
squeaky wheels.
the squeaky wheels on his wheelchair were way before I see the dog.
the fucking alligator looks like a cholo with a grill.
Yeah,
What the
dude,
fuck
it's
is
fucking
this
insane.
game, bro? What
It's
the
so
fuck?
fucking insane. But I have so come around on just embracing the insanity of this game, and it's I think there are Far Cries that try to take itself too seriously, and because of that, they end up coming off. They rub people the wrong way, rightfully so. Um, there are other ones that I think kind of fully lean into the insanity and just come across as generally fun. I have no, I have no doubts they're probably going to fumble this more serious side of this story, but I can't comment on that yet. What I do know is that the hours and hours of time I've spent just exploring the world and collecting things. You have to collect the fucking roosters. Like you have to fill out your fighting game roster by collecting these roosters all over the island. And they all have like their own unique like look and personality and abilities and attack. It's so
So would you say you have an eye for good cock, Nick?
Yes. You know what? I will find all of these cocks. I will find every last cock on this island. I swear to God.
Somebody clip that out, for the love of God.
But man, dude, Robin walked into the room while I was playing this, and she doesn't really know anything about Far Cry, but she walked into the room right as I was summoning Chorizo, and it came running up, and I literally watched her face go from like completely emotionless to, oh my God, that dog is so cute, I'm about to cry. And that dog is fucking adorable. And like people will actively stop focusing on me and start like shooting at this little dog, and I'm like, what are you doing? I feel so terrible taking taking this dog into battle. But like, man, you can send him to distract things. He'll if you upgrade him, like fill up the challenges, he'll actually dig up things in the ground, like resources that you wouldn't be able to otherwise find. Things like that. Like you can pet him, you can upgrade him, you can pet him to get back health and stuff. Like I don't know. It's a very
delightful. Say it, delightful.
Yeah, the game's kind of delightful in like a really weird, fucked up way. And I can already tell I'm gonna play this for many, many, many hours. But it is still Far Cry as fuck. So it's kind of like if you've decided you're done with Far Cry as a series, that I totally understand. This isn't really gonna do you any favors, but it's also been a series that's very much been like comfort food for me for a while. So I'm into it. I think most of the changes they've made to this game are for the better. Oh yeah, and I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, but one of the like biggest things they've changed in this game that kind of mixes up the gameplay is like all the enemies have different unit types. So like there's medics in the field, there's officers, there's assault units that have like body armor and stuff, so you have to use a specific type of round to take them out. You need to focus on taking out medics quickly because otherwise they're going to just run around reviving people on the field. Officers can call in airstrikes. Like it's a little bit more strategic in terms of like when you're approaching a scenario, it's like, okay, I need to identify targets that I need to focus on first. And before I felt like it was almost purely just run in and shoot everybody as quickly as possible. And it feels better than that now. But it's not like super deep, but it's just another layer of like complexity that I think makes the gameplay feel kind of fresh. So I don't know. I'm having fun with it. That's all I wanted to say. And Chorizo's adorable. fucking adorable. I had an alligator and now I don't even use him. I use Chorizo because he's great. All right, Nolan, you had an update for Metal Gear, right? You wanted to talk about what's going on? That you're still playing that?
I'm still playing Metal Gear Solid 2 is the one I've been focusing on. I kind of booted up Peace Walker, but I didn't really play a whole lot of it. But I kind of started getting into the more, because like I said, I'm trying to I'm going to collect all the dog tags because I never did that back in the day. And so I'm playing on, hard, and I'm about to start extreme or whatever the next one above that one is. But I forgot some of the details that are in this game, like the whole, especially, I know a lot of the more modern Metal Gears, like 4 and even 3 to an extent, and obviously 5, but like had some unique stuff. But this one I had forgotten, like, oh, if you're out in the rain and you walk inside, you're like drip water on the ground and guards will be distracted by it. And
I can't believe they did that on the PS2.
Like, yes, there was some pretty fucking insane stuff. Like I just kind of forgotten about it. Like, oh, if you've been outside too long and you don't take medicine, you might randomly just sneeze and alert guards to your presence and stuff like that. But yeah, besides that, I have been trying to do all the VR missions, and holy fuck, there's so many VR missions. It is fucking insane. I'm 57% of the way done. I think I'm around 19 hours
So you probably
of
finished
just
Raiden.
VR missions. I did finish all of Raiden. I finished all of Ninja Raiden and Raiden X.
So are you
So
not touching
I'm
the campaign at all? Are you
no,
doing?
I'm doing the campaign. Yeah. I've beaten the game 3 times now.
Holy shit!
That 20 hours does not count the campaign. I'm just talking about VR missions as 20 hours, and I'm like 58% of the way done.
Have you done any of the Snake Tales?
I've done all of the Snake Tales. The Snake
Okay.
Tales are actually a lot of fun.
Snake
They are kind of just Snake on the plant section of the game with kind of
Big
like
Shell.
Big Shell kind of with like a different story going on. So you're kind of going around. Oh, you're EE is there, Emma. Interacting with her or interacting with the vice president or whatever, like secretary or something. I can't remember the details. But yeah, those are pretty fun. But yeah, so some of the more in depth, I think they call them like variety VR missions are pretty unique. Like the other week we kind of talked about me doing the one with like the Godzilla like guards and stuff like that. And I did, there's a lot of like photo modes where you have to take a photo of something. Or yeah, I don't know if it was the same one you talked about, Chris, but it was like the murder mystery of like who killed Raiden.
That's in the first Metal Gear Solid VR missions.
Okay, well, so in this one they have one. So you were talking about that one. This one they have something that's like, oh, who killed like Raiden? It's like Raiden did on the ground, and you can find like a photo of Snake on the wall, and you take a photo. It's like, yep, that's who killed him. Snake killed Raiden. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like goofy shit. So it has been fun trying to get through them.
I'll
So
be honest. After you talked about it last week, I started thinking about Metal Gear Solid 2, and that made me start thinking about 3. And I was like, "Fuck! I think I want to play the series again."
Dude, I'm gonna play 3. I've told myself though I'm gonna finish all of these fucking VR missions, even though oh my god, there's one that I was pounding my fucking head over. I think it's a variety mission, and it's like you have to save Meryl. She's like knocked out on the ground, and
The
guards are
snipers.
coming to get her. Oh
Yeah.
my god, it is so bad. It is so fucking difficult because there's like I think at least in the one I had just done, there's 26 guards, and they don't all show up at once. They come in like waves, but they're constantly moving, almost like they have like a duck game where the ducks are moving around, but they're hiding behind shit. So they'll like walk over here and then hide behind something and maybe peek their head out a little bit and then go. But there's shit tons of them, and they're fucking everywhere.
And they're always going on random paths too. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll walk and then just take a fucking 90-degree turn and go a different direction. And if a single one of them touches Meryl, game over.
Yep.
And oh my god, I probably conservative estimate like 25, 30 times to complete that one. And my assumption is there is going to be a more difficult version of that later.
I think that's a safe assumption.
Chris Davis, his mic was muted, but he said there is, and oh my god, I'm not looking forward to it.
I don't want to even tell you what that entails, but it is an ordeal.
I'll do it because I've committed myself to doing it. But yeah, no, it's I'm definitely enjoying the non like me like slamming my controller down levels are a lot of fun. It's just honestly that sniper one is the only one that I probably had to do that many times. The rest of them, I fail maybe once or twice. One of the modes is like the Raiden X mode is just Raiden has to sneak through the area, but he's naked. And so he doesn't have any weapons or anything, and he's just holding his junk the whole time. And you got to sneak past all the guards and stuff. Yeah,
there's like a whole first-person mode as well.
Oh yeah, there's several like first-person modes and stuff like that.
And it's not bad for what they're attempting.
No. It is. I'm shocked at how much content it provides, and I'm upset at myself that I didn't play it back in the day. That I just played the story, because a lot of these, and I think maybe the reason I didn't was because I remember the VR missions from the first game were lacking, but that's also because it was a PS1 game. This one just it adds quite a significant amount of fun. Yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, keep us posted.
Yep.
Jeff, did you have any other quick mentions you wanted to throw out here?
No, we can move on.
Okay, all right. Well, let's answer a couple questions. We have a little bit of time for that. We haven't had like a full show in a couple weeks, and there was 1 week we had off. I do want to remind everybody real quick: if you support us on Patreon or on Twitch, you should have access to the supporters channel in Discord, where you can find the link. It's pinned in the channel. There's a link where you can just submit questions. Anything that pops into your brain you want to ask us, just pop into that forum, submit it, and we'll eventually get to it on a future show. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Nolan, let him pick some questions, and we'll answer them.
Let's do it. First question this week, we'll do from Mr. Scorpion. What is something you would change within your workplace currently? Quote, this is, in parentheses, this is assuming you have complete authority over the change now and in the foreseeable future.
4-day work week. Done.
I was gonna say that, Nick. I was gonna say that. Holy shit! Like I wouldn't mind the workday being like an hour or two longer. But like
every weekend was 3 days
is so fucking nice.
Did you see the news about what's the studio?
WB Montreal, right?
Yeah, I think it's WB Montreal.
Or is it Eidos?
Someone in Montreal. Okay.
Eidos Montreal has officially adopted a 4-day work week for all of their employees.
Oh my god, dude! In the past month or a couple of months, I've had like 2 or 3 3-day weekends because of it's so nice.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, Friday after work, you're still tired from the day's work, you know, whatever. You're trying to wind down. Saturday is fucking chores. And so it's like I'm mowing the lawn, I'm maybe running some errands, and then Sunday, now I'm just dreading the fact that I have to go to work the next day. But when you have that one day in the middle, like holy shit, like it is so nice.
Yeah,
3-day weekends are the bomb diggity.
Although maybe we should go a little bit more specific and say 32-hour work weeks instead of like a 40-hour work week.
Sure, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind working like a half day on Friday. You know, if I had to. Yeah, 3-day weekends.
I would take either one. I think that would honestly boost productivity for most companies, anyways. Another possible answer to the question: nap times. What the fuck happened to nap time? Why does it stop after kindergarten? I don't understand. I need naps more now than I needed when I was in kindergarten. Shit.
I think of something.
You're right.
Let's move on.
We don't need to get into anything specific. We're talking about actual employers. I just 4-day
I'm
work
sure in this fucking world environment that we live in, people napping at work isn't just going to lead to a whole bunch of rapes.
Whoa!
Wait, what?
I mean, I would hope not.
That's why there's no nap time, Nick.
Oh, well, I got nothing.
Jeff took it to 11, so we're going to move on to the next question from Mr. Greentoes.
Someone says, "Whoa, we're there."
Yeah. I'm trying to be the Norm Macdonald for this section.
Oh,
let's just keep
nice.
it going.
Okay.
All right. With the arrival of the spooky month of October, I wanted to ask, what do you deem as the best or worst candies for Halloween?
Well, the worst is the Tootsie Roll.
There's about 38 worsts. You got Tootsie Rolls. You got what are those little pieces of wax on paper, or those little dot things on paper, or Necco wafers, or there's shit tons of bad candy out there.
Candy corn is the worst.
Yeah, the paper.
Candy corn gets a bad rap.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Smarties are okay, but I don't want Smarties in my Halloween candy. No.
Excuse me. I would literally try and farm Smarties on Halloween. I would literally go, I want to come home with as many things of Smarties as I can possibly get my hands on. That was my Halloween.
You had a weird Halloween.
Carth and chat brings up a good point.
Fishing for Wars' originals. Don't lie.
Circus peanuts are bad. I'm not a big fan of Dum Dums. I think they're a little like boring.
They can be okay if you get the right flavor.
They're so small.
Sweet
Glager. I fucking love those strawberry wrapped hard candies. That grandma has a bowl of. Dude, I fucking love those.
All right, I'm gonna be honest. My favorite candy at Halloween was the blue raspberry blow pops.
Okay.
Specifically. Any other flavor of blow pop, I don't give a shit about. Blue raspberry, though?
I'm a big fan of Nerds.
Yes, nerds are
Yeah,
good. Nerds are
some
good.
nerds.
Yeah, I just
nerds.
like that. I can eat like 1,000 of them. Well, I mean, they're so tiny. It's like you don't eat a nerd. Do you eat a nerd at a time?
I
No,
couldn't tell if you were
fucking get
talking
a
about like
handful of
1,000
them.
boxes or 1,000
No,
like actual.
yeah, just
nerds.
you fucking dump the whole, especially the mini boxes. You just fucking dump the whole thing in at
Oh
once.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh,
You cough and spit out a bunch of fucking nerds like a BB gun.
yeah.
I
What's what?
I'm a fan of I like dots. I really like dots. You know, I haven't had them quite a while, but I like them.
What the chocolate covered caramels? Is that
No,
what
no,
No,
the
stuff
the
like
dots,
the gummy ones.
Yeah, like the gummies.
Oh, the gummies.
They're okay, but they get stuck in your teeth.
True.
Oh yeah, those are super
Yeah.
sticky too. That's like
Yeah, they're extremely sticky.
I like sweet tarts.
Sweet tarts are good. I do like
sweet tarts are the ones wrapped in that like fucking plastic thing.
No, those
They're,
are
like,
Smarties.
stacked
Those are
Smarties.
Smarties.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
really
Sweet
the
tarts
difference
are
between
bigger than
Smarties and
Smarties.
sweet tarts, though?
No, sweet tarts are bigger.
Everything.
Sweet
They're
tarts are
completely
bigger and
different like
tartar.
texture. Yeah, they're the in like Smarties are almost like, I don't want to say a powder, but they're
They're chalk.
they're not chalk. There's definitely chalky candies. But Smarties are more of like
Owen is
solid.
a connoisseur of the chalk.
Oh yeah, dude! I've been around the block. I filled up a pillowcase with candy. My share Halloween's.
He's been around the chalk.
Yeah. All right, we can probably move on from this question. Thank you, Green Toast.
I don't
Next
get
question.
candies anymore, so
Well, I mean, you can just
Sadly.
fucking buy your own. You're an adult.
I could.
Oh, I have tons of candy because I have kids in the house, so this.
I just
Oh,
buy
yeah.
a bunch of candy and I turn off the lights and I and I just sit at home with a big bucket and eat it myself.
October comes around and I'm like, let's gain another 15 pounds.
You know what, Glager? I'll say Fun Dip was something I was into when I was younger. I had it not too long ago. Not as big of a fan as I used to be.
Not
the
as fun?
stick is still good though. The stick.
Oh, dude, the stick was the best part of it.
Yeah, it's still good.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Drunken Merchant. Would you rather have every device in your life, phones, gaming system, ATMs, etc., load everything instantly at all times, or never have to see an ad ever again?
Never have to see an ad ever again.
I guess you have to choose between one or the other.
I mean,
I
here's
can
the
live with
question.
load times.
Well, here's the question. And I think this is an
Mm-hmm.
important distinction. Does that mean, because I feel like there are some ads you want to see, like where do we draw the line? Like, is an ad just something that plays like indiscriminately, like during a YouTube video, or does that mean no movie trailers,
no
like
ads,
nothing?
Yes, no ads. Period.
I would rather have all my devices load instantaneously.
I mean,
because
if there's no ads, then how am I supposed to know what anything is that I'm going to purchase?
That's true.
Right?
You listen to 4Player podcast.
Yes, I'm not gonna brush my
This
teeth.
We're
podcast
definitely
wouldn't
not a
exist.
news show.
If there was
I
only a
would
brand.
say I mean, I have a pie hole, so I don't mind ads as much because I don't see as many. Apparently, y'all are not technically savvy.
I guess not.
A pie hole is just a DNS route that essentially anything that is an ad gets dumped into a black hole, so it just doesn't load. So it also.
But like those are the kind of ads that like play during videos or appear. on
Yeah. So
websites,
video
right?
ads, or like the pop-ups on the side of websites and stuff. Like for the most part, like
you guys are going to where there's pop-ups, but that don't sound too legit. You know what I'm saying?
I can watch porn in peace now. Is what you're saying?
Go to speedtest.net and let me know how many fucking ads load on that fucking page.
Sometimes I feel like I go to speedtest.net and I
everything.
feel like the whole site is an ad, and I'm like, this is
Dude,
real.
right? Guess what happens when I go there? Not a single ad.
The internet was a mistake.
Yeah, it was. That's true. But yeah, so I would go down that road because
I mean,
my
this podcast is proof of that.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a question from Gigamir. This December will mark 5 years since the release of The Last Guardian. Looking back, now that it's so much time has passed, how do you feel about the game? And where do you think its legacy now fits alongside Eco and Shadow of the Colossus? I sometimes feel like it has been largely forgotten, and that surprises me a little. Do you also see this being the case? If so, what do you think stopped it from gaining a similar gaining a similar momentum to those other titles? Do you think something could have been done differently?
Well, a lot of things could have been done differently.
I was not the biggest fan of Last Guardian when it came out. If you go back and listen to podcasts
I
and
do,
stuff about it,
I do recall Nolan's
I,
opinion.
I,
of
I
Last
didn't think
Guardian.
the game was the worst game ever made, but I was not on the hype train for it.
Like I would
That's a
say,
Fox quote if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Not the worst game ever made.
I would say that like the fatigue of waiting for it to come out, I think kind of hampered things. Like it was like what 5 or 6 years between announcement and release.
I
Like
mean,
it
there's been
switched
games that
entire
have gone longer.
generations. Like
I mean, but that's not necessarily uncommon these days. I mean, look what happened. I mean, Final Fantasy VII remake. Well, I
The
mean,
worst part-
that wasn't officially announced, I guess. You're right. You're right. But there's other games too that have been like that. And there's one other one that I was trying to think of that. I mean, Alan Wake was announced and then came out like what 8 years or something after it was originally announced.
it's about
and
5 years.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just
a part of the problem with like people and society in general. Like you have to know everything. You know what I mean? Like people don't want
Yes,
to
Jeff, I
shadow
do.
drop. Like they don't want to shadow drop something. They want the information like right away. Like they demand it. It's like so like it's a it's a lose-lose. Sometimes that stuff I think could be the publisher too, like trying to gauge like how much of a budget are we going to throw at this fucking game? Well, let's spend 50,000 to make a fucking trailer, and then we can see, we'll get a response, and then we'll decide if we're going to give you $100 million. You know what I mean? So
Right.
who knows? Like who really fucking knows?
To the when you look back at Team Eco and their library of 3 releases, right? We got Eco. Shadow of the Colossus is I think just destined to be a goat, right? I think it's
Yes.
super
sure.
unique and memorable, and I think we're I mean, it's almost like it's like a fucking mountain. Like Eco was. When Eco came out, and that was the only thing that existed from that team, I don't think people were like losing their shit over Eco.
No.
That was a niche game. Not a lot of people got it. It wasn't until they saw the brilliance of Shadow of the Colossus that people then started like really heaping praise on Eco. And then with The Last Guardian, it was living in the shadow of
Yes.
of the Colossus. You know what I mean?
I think
there was. I mean, it was just sky high expectations for that game that I don't think it ever could have lived up to.
So yeah, I'll agree. So I think Eco came out, and it was a pretty challenging game. There was definitely, but it had a great atmosphere and a good story. And it was, was it a launch title on the PS2? It was pretty early on the PS2.
It was early, but not launched. No.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was one of those things where it was impressive for the time. And then Shadow of the Colossus comes out, and it blows expectations for what the PS2 is capable of out of the water. It was at the end of the PS2's, not technically the end of its lifetime, but I mean, like, the 360 and PS3 were on the horizon, and everyone is looking at, or the 360 might have just came out. Like, oh my God, next gen. And all of a sudden Shadow of the Colossus comes out, and it is like, holy fuck, a PS2 can do this? It was beautiful. It had great atmosphere. It had, for how little story there was, a good, interesting story. And it was just that sense of accomplishment every time you defeated a Colossus. And then, yes, a bunch of hype for Last Guardian comes out. It comes out. And you, like White Faye mentioned in chat, a lot of my problems were kind of, I don't want to say jank, but it was kind of I know what needs to be done. I can't get this thing to do it.
It was janky.
And it was very frustrating. And a lot of the people of feedback I got around that was like, oh, well, it's the thing is not smart enough, so you have to teach it. But no, that's a fucking excuse for bad programming, because they couldn't make the AI do what they wanted it to do. It was so frustrating sometimes trying to, like, there was the one thing, and I have vivid fucking memories of me being extremely frustrated that there was like a fucking teeter-totter, and you needed to stand on one side and get him to fucking stomp on the other to fling you up, and he wouldn't fucking do it. And like, it would, to the point where like I would try and get him to do it, he wouldn't do it. I would do this. I'd get off the thing, and then he'd stomp on it, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, and it was just like one of those things where like I just got so fed up with trying to make this AI partner, let's put it that way, do what I needed him to do when I needed him to do it. And it was a frustrating experience for me at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it also, to Nolan's point about Shadow of the Colossus coming out kind of near the tail end of the PS2 era. The Last Guardian came out kind of in the, if I remember correctly, kind of came out smack dab in the middle of the PS4 era. So it wasn't
Mhm.
also flying on the, it wasn't also like the most amazing looking game by that day stand. I mean, it looked great, but it wasn't suddenly like, oh my god, this hardware can do this, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus did. And I tend to kind of fall in the kind of the opposite territory as Nolan. Is like in terms of the idea that they were trying to do was to have it kind of like not have the creature behave, not to follow your every command right away because they wanted it to feel like a real creature. I think they maybe it either went a little too far with that, or like Nolan said, the programming didn't quite have the effect they were going for, so that effect often went beyond just hesitation on the part of the creature and suddenly felt like jank
I
and frustration.
I
Um,
I'd give them the benefit of the doubt and say like they probably intended for it to be that way, because a lot of their thing is, here's the thing, like, it's still a bad design, like, it's still a bad design choice. You know what I mean? It's still a bad design choice, regardless if you intended that to be the case of like, okay, like, uh, when you trigger this the first time, do not do it. Trigger
Yeah.
it the third time, then it will. So you have to, like, it's still a bad design choice. I get it, regardless if it was
it's
or
a
not.
it's
Like
a
they
bad design choice if you're trying to specifically, if you want your game to appeal to as many people as possible. There's going to be half the
course.
people are going to get super frustrated with that, and then half are going to be like, oh, I like
It
the novelty of that idea.
It
But
didn't
like,
happen all the time. It's not like it happened all the time. I definitely had like it happens early, which again is the reason where I think they were trying to, like, maybe have it intentionally do that, because it does happen early and it gets better. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? As time goes on, with
as
that
you
assumption,
form the bond with
right,
the
and
creature.
the thing learns, to trust you and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, nothing hit like Shadow of the Colossus did. You know what I mean? Like, Shadow of the Colossus was this weird, like, game that, like, was just doing things that people weren't taking risks doing. Like, like having it load in that specific way, and you're instantly like, here you go. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And you're just riding this horse aimlessly around a field, and then you start to see the Colossus, and that fucking soundtrack kicks in, and it's such a banger of a song that you're instantly like, yes, you know what I mean? Like, it's so exhilarating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They never nailed that. They never just
Yeah.
had that moment.
And a lot of that I think too has to do with um, Shadow of the Colossus kind of like exposed us to the the idea of the colossi, right? So by the
Mhm.
time we finished that game, we had seen what 14 or 16 of them or whatever,
16.
and then the Last Guardian almost to some extent feels like you are. It's like you have a friend and he's kind of like a colossi or whatever, but like it's just something we were already more familiar with, so it didn't quite have the wow factor. It had the kind of the cute playful factor, but I don't think that was enough to like make it have that sense of like awe that Shadow of the Colossus had. And also too, just to the point of like Shadow of the Colossus, once you realize what you were doing, it had a very measurable sense uh of achievement. Like you knew what you had to do to win, or like how to like you could think back like, oh, I had to take down whatever it was, 14 colossi. Think back to the Last
16.
Guardian. It's like I just had to lead this weird creature through a bunch of puzzles, and I don't really remember specific parts of that game. Unlike Shadow of the Colossus, where I remember almost everything because holy shit, every one of those colossi was a different set piece. Um, so I think it just has a lot working against it. It's with it living in the shadow of the Colossus.
Here's the thing. I bet you if we go back to it, like if I go back to it, I'll probably like it more, I think,
I
now.
think
I
maybe
think I might
now
have
enough
more.
time has passed. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you
'cause
play the remake or only the original?
no, I
Oh,
mean, of Last Guardian. Like, if I
Oh,
go
sorry,
back
sorry. I
to
thought you
play
meant Shadow.
Last Guardian, I bet you I like it more now. than I
In fact,
did.
I'm tempted to do that at some point just to see how I feel about it.
That game was it was kind of interesting that they tried to they almost took like they like mashed their two games together. They were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
let's take this eco like partner mechanic and incorporate that. What if the partner was a guardian?" And it was like, "Yeah, all right, like that sounds like it would work." I still love the atmosphere in their games, like their
Yeah.
color
Yeah,
palette
yeah.
and the way it looks, and their art direction and their tone. Like it just feels like, you
It's
know,
unlike anything else, that's for sure.
yeah, it deserves respect, basically.
For sure.
So
Absolutely. What do you think, Nolan? Do you want to do one more, or do you want to wrap up? I don't know.
I
You have the
hadn't
doc
found
open.
a quick one yet.
We can wrap up.
I was yeah, probably a good idea. Just because if we were to do another one, I'd want it to be a quick one. But I don't really see too many on here that we can answer within like 30 seconds. So all of them are
All right.
fairly lengthy answers.
Cool. Well, guys, again, future reference, if y'all are supporting us on Twitch or Patreon, just go into the Discord channel, the supporters channel in Discord. Find the pinned link in that channel. It's a link to a Google Doc. You can just submit your question there on the forum, and we'll get to it on a future show. And with that, let's wrap up as we always do with the 4-player minute. That's hype, sweat, thank you, fuck you, or any combination thereof. Who would like to go first? Was that Jeff volunteering or
Nope.
Jeff? Yeah, nope.
I can go.
I'm
All right, Chris Davis, take the
Okay.
reins. Go ahead.
My main hype this week is for Back for Blood. Again, I was really down on this game leading into launch after hearing that there was no versus mode for campaign, and it just felt a little scummy the way they could potentially implement cards and everything. I just didn't understand what this game was going to be. And I probably would have had a better perspective if I would have played the beta. But I only played the alpha back in December, so I only had what I had that was there. But after putting a couple hours into it, experiencing the versus mode that's in Horde or Spawn or whatever it's called, and then playing through the more balanced out, more refined experience of the campaign, I'm happier with it. I like the fact that this game is trying to build a narrative, and that the characters you're playing as, sure, they're not Zoe and Bill and Francis and Lewis from Left 4 Dead 1, and forget the rest of the cast from Left 4 Dead 2, except for Ellis. But I think that they're trying to build a decent cast to work with and give them all good personalities to play off of. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of where that goes. I have a mild hype this week for Battlefield 2042. The beta wasn't that good. And by the way, a mild fuck you to EA for ending the beta on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. That's kind of shitty.
An odd choice.
Yeah.
That's an odd choice. Also,
Very.
it sounds like a mild hype should just be a sweat.
Maybe a sweat.
Yeah.
Today, they revealed finally what hazard mode is. It's one of the 3 main modes for the game. This is kind of a semi-battle royale mode that's like somewhere in between the Division's Dark Zone and Hunt Showdown. It's a PvPvE experience in which satellites are dropping out of the sky, and you have to extract the hard drives from them and get them off the map from other players before a storm hits and kills everything. And it was a cinematic trailer, which was a little disappointing, but I like the idea of what they're going with here. I want to see some footage, but again, that beta was just not very good.
At this point, I'm just gonna see what the final product is.
Yeah, you really should. I think the best parts of Battlefield 2042 are going to come from the portal mode, where the custom servers and the custom server logic that you can build. I think that's where most people are going to actually end up playing. And that was going to be my sweat, Battlefield 2042. And I guess my fuck you this week, it's going to Ubisoft as per normal. So they announced, remember that Ghost Recon Battle Royale that they announced last week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have now indefinitely postponed the public first playtest of that for Really unclear reasons, but it sounds like they just saw how bad the reception was like, okay, we need to take a step back. So, but fuck y'all for thinking this was a good idea in the first place. No, fuck you. No, this is not how you use Ghost Recon.
Or Splinter Cell, for that matter.
Or Splinter Cell. No, I didn't even need to mention Splinter Cell. It's an automatic fuck you for how they treat Splinter
You
Cell
didn't
every
have to
single day of
mention
my
it.
life.
We all heard it. Everything
Yeah.
you said is we heard what you said, but we really heard what you said, which was
Yes.
Splinter Cell.
Yes.
All right, Nolan, you're up.
All right, my hype this week is for the fact that I made it through Squid Games without getting anything spoiled for me.
Yes.
So that was a pretty good show. Would recommend it if you haven't seen it, or if you're into squid.
No
My
comment.
sweat is going to go to Metal Gear Solid 2 VR missions. They're getting tough, but I'm going to make my way through them. There's just a lot of them left. My second sweat is going to go to I'm traveling next week for the first time in close to 2 years. Yeah, it's going to be like a month shy, I think, of 2 years.
Like on an airplane?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
Yeah. So
Can I ask where you're going, or is that?
I'm going to New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
For a wedding that Bernadette is the matron of honor.
It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Boston.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm minimizing the travel I'm doing.
You could basically walk.
Yeah.
Please.
But the thing is, I'm also probably going to put down Metroid Dread for a little bit, mainly because I want to save it for that trip. Just because that's the perfect game to play during that trip. And then my thank you is actually going to go to Kaiju Wars because they were super kind and reached out to us to actually tell us thank you for the feedback that we gave on the game on the show last week. So I appreciate the fact that they are perusing the internet for us, giving constructive criticism and reaching out and saying thanks, especially because they had to actually because they added me and Chris, and it's not like our Twitter handles were in the tweet, so they actually had to do a little bit of research to find us. So
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Jeff, are you ready?
Yes. My hype is for this new game that came out called Riftbreaker. It's on Game
Yes.
Pass. This is totally a Nolan game. So
For the Googles.
Okay, so it's a twin stick shooter strategy survival game. Real-time strategy survival game. So you're base building, you're gathering resources, building the stuff, but also like They Are Billions. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of like that, but dual stick shooter where you're building a base and then like swarms of enemies on this planet are attacking you while you're doing like real time strategy, and then also like Diablo-esque kind of like dealing with cooldown. Like your character is like a World of Warcraft hero or Diablo avatar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like an hour in, and I played it like right before we started, and I'm like, damn, this podcast went too long because now I can't play it till tomorrow. So I'm really hyped to continue playing it because it seems really cool. But yeah, my sweat is so I don't have not really looking forward to anything for the end of the year now. You know what I mean? Like now that
I'm kind of
Metroid's
in the same
over,
boat.
I'm like, now what? You know what I mean? Like I don't know what else. So I guess I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like I feel like the year is over. I feel like if Metroid were December or like November, like mid-November, I would be like, like good year, you know. But now I feel like, damn, like what's November and December? Hopefully something. My thank you is for everyone hanging out in the 4Player Discord that bullshits with me on a regular basis when I'm bored. And my fuck you goes to capitalism. And that's it.
Sure.
There we go. Speaking of capitalism, I have 4 hypes, and they're all for things that are being marketed very heavily right now.
He's about to
Uh,
take off T-shirts. He's like, first Dexter, and then he
Yeah.
takes it off, and he's like, next,
Oh man, that would have been good. That would have been good. But
Ghostfire Tokyo.
Jeff, you are right. My first hype is for Dexter New Blood. We are 24 days away, baby. That is so fucking exciting. Um, but my second hype goes for there is a new trailer for a new horror movie coming out in January. Of all things, I don't know where the fuck it's coming out in January, but it's called The Black Phone. It's from the director of Doctor Strange, but it has oh god, what's his name? I keep wanting to say Jude Law, but it's not Jude Law. Who that? Somebody in chat has to know who I'm talking about.
Ewan McGregor. I don't know.
No.
I'm saying,
Ethan
who's
Hawke.
Jude
Ethan
Law?
Hawke.
Ethan Hawke. Okay.
Ethan Hawke plays like this fucking crazy serial killer who kidnaps children, and he kidnaps his kid and chains them up in the basement, and then the kid is being haunted by the ghosts of his previous victims who are trying to help him escape this dude's house. But it looks creepy as shit. It looks kind of amazing. I'm super hyped for it. I wish to God it was coming out this month because it'd be the perfect like crazy Halloween movie to watch. But a trailer dropped today. Check it out. It looks cool. Man, a lot of my fucking hypes this week are about things involving serial killers, and I'm starting to wonder. My third hype is they dropped
We're
the
not
trailer for
wondering.
Scream, the fifth movie in the Scream franchise, also coming out in January. What the fuck? But man, I used to be hype about Scream the way I'm hype about Dexter now.
Wait, this is
and-
the 5th movie?
yes.
Is the S in the name
No,
of 5?
no.
Oh, come on! How did they miss that?
They missed a marketing
I know.
opportunity.
I
Come
know.
on.
But let me just say, like, I used to be these like the first Scream is probably in my top 5 favorite films of all time. I love the franchise. I love the characters in that series. So, and it's been 10 years since the last one. And before that, there was like a 10-year gap between 3 and 4. I can't believe it's we're coming up on 25 years, and we're getting another movie starring the original cast, and I'm so fucking excited. That trailer was dope. It's directed by the guys who did Ready or Not, if you saw that, which was a really creative, really fun horror movie that came out, I think, last year or the year before that. But yeah, man, I'm super fucking hyped for that movie. I love those movies. And my last hype is for something I finished, but I feel like we haven't really had a chance to talk much about it on the podcast. Midnight Mass, man. If you haven't watched Midnight Mass,
I have not.
It's on my
it
to-do.
is fantastic. And it subverts expectations in a really creative way. It is totally not what I was expecting it to be, but I found it to be a real page turner. It's a relatively quick watch. It's only 7 episodes. But those episodes are strong and they're well acted and they have great characters. And man, that dude, Mike Flanagan, is kind of like one of the best horror writers / directors of our day and age. Like he's doing some incredible stuff. All the things that he's done on Netflix so far have been awesome, and Midnight Mass is definitely up there. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on Netflix now. Capitalism. Woo!
Did you see the trailer for well, it wasn't a trailer. Did you see the
teaser?
for Batman?
Dude, I'm so. Let me tell you this. My fuck you this week goes to AMC or DC or whoever the fuck made this deal. The Batman is maybe my most anticipated movie after Scream. It's coming out, whenever next year. There's a trailer for it coming out this weekend. I've been super hype about it since that original trailer from last year. But they made a deal with AMC that they're only going to show this movie at AMC for the first 45 days. Fuck
That's
that.
okay. That's
Fuck
okay.
that shit.
Robert
I don't
Pattinson,
like
though.
that shit. Dude, Robert Pattinson's great.
He's great. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's great. You can't fuck with him. I don't care if
I
he
feel
was in pilot
like
movies.
you really
I
don't
don't
even
care
need
that
to
he's in
apologize for
pilot
that
movies.
anymore.
Bro, him and fucking Willem Dafoe eat
In Lighthouse?
eat it up in the fucking Lighthouse. For that movie to be that interesting, and it's basically just the camera pointing at 2 men that whole fucking time, just talking to each other at a fucking lighthouse, and it's interesting. At this point, I have faith in him. I think he's probably good, and it's gonna probably be a great Batman. To be honest, I have faith.
And that
Sounds
director
right.
did 3 incredible Planet of the Apes movies. I don't even like Planet of the Apes, and I watch all those movies and I'm like, these are great. These are cool movies, and they're really well done. So
I mean, they're
have a lot
very
of faith in
different
that.
from the original.
Yes, they are very, very, very different than the original. But just from as a concept, I didn't see myself being a fan of those movies. But I watched all three of them, and they're all bangers. They're great.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So, anyways, guys, that's our show. Jeff, thank you again for being on such short notice. It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad we
No
got to talk
problem.
Metroid tonight. So yeah, 4playernetwork.com, of course, is the website. Check us out there. Check out those 2 episodes of the Revival Club that dropped today. And of course, we'll be streaming. I think I'm going to do some Halloween streams here pretty soon. Maybe some Back for Blood. I also have Chasing Static, which is a new indie game that came out today. We're going to line up some other horror games I want to play this month. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And of course, join us in Discord at discord.gg/4player. But until next week, be safe, be good to each other, play video games. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.